Yeah, it's just turning this here back on.
First thing we're going to do is Pledge of Allegiance. So if you please stand and join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We would also like to acknowledge that we are on the ancestral land of the Bay Miwoks and the Yokarts. We're going to now do roll call. Trustee Count. Here. Trustee Mayo. Here. Vice President Zawi. Here. Trustee McFerrin. Here. And I am Trustee Mason. I am here as well. We'll do our report. Oh, first we will do review of agenda to see if there's any changes. No changes to the agenda. Very good. We'll go on to report out from our closed session. 7.1. The board voted 5-0 to readmit student C22 to regular schools in the Mount Diablo Unified School District. 7.2, the board voted 5-0 to readmit student D22 to regular schools in the Mount Diablo Unified School District. 7.3, the board received information on negotiations. 7.4, in closed session, by a vote of 5-0 with no abstentions, the board took action to approve the service of certification dismissal charges to employee number 11673 and initiate the certification dismissal process under the California Ed Code. On 7.3, I'm sorry, the board received information and gave direction. 7.6, public employee evaluation of the superintendent. The board, in closed session, the Mount Diablo Unified School District voted unanimously to give Dr. Clark a satisfactory rating for as superintendent evaluation for 2021-2022. Dr. Clark's leadership helped us end this year with the positive certification and a settled contract with all our bargaining units. His willingness to be open and transparent, whether the news was good or bad, with the board, the parents, with the staff, and the community at large, is truly an asset. Perhaps most important is the genuine interest he has shown for each and every student in the district. He has our full support, and we look forward to working together with him to continue to improve the educational journey for all our students. To accept it as it is, we can't yet.
Madam President, I move the board approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, that passes 5-0. It's time for public comment. The public may address the board regarding any item within the jurisdiction of the Board of Education of the Mount Diablo Unified School District that is not on this agenda. These presentations are limited to 3 minutes each, or a total of 30 minutes for all speakers, or the 3-minute limit may be shortened. If there are multiple speakers on any one subject, the public comment period may be moved to the end of the meeting. Speakers are not allowed to yield their time. We have a speaker card from Kim Montano.
Good afternoon, Superintendent, board members, members at large. I am Kim Montana, the Vice President of CSEA. I come tonight with good news, which is rare, I know. I want to thank Ryan Sheehy, Amy Sudrella for setting up the professional development this year on March 7th. I also want to thank Ryan Feltscrap for providing her school and opening classes for us when, it was basically empty that day. I also want to thank Kirsten Watson, who's providing some special ed training on Zoom throughout this summer. And I want to thank all the ladies in personnel because they have bent over backwards for us to make everything happen throughout the entire school year and currently as well through the summer with hiring and everything. So yeah, just want to come thank everybody who had their hand in the cookie jar and they did a phenomenal job. I also want to thank Cindy Gershon from Mount Diablo for the catering part, also the bistro, Sunrise Bistro, who helped out. So they all were key players. They did a wonderful job, and I just want to thank them for their hard work, and we look forward to doing it again in this next upcoming school year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you.
Okay, Bruce Rockwell.
Hello, my name is Bruce Rockwell. I teach music at College Park High School, and I also serve on the district's VAPA steering committee with Susan Hartwig. Since before the pandemic, my colleagues and I have been collecting data to assess the performance of our music education system from the standpoint of equity and access. And we have found some deep inequities that leave many student populations without meaningful access to the benefits of music education. Our system of instruction was designed decades ago and was originally intended primarily to feed marching band programs in all of our secondary schools, marching programs that for the most part no longer exist. Our student population has changed, our communities have changed, music education has changed, but our systemic approach in music is basically the same as it was 40 years ago. This increasing disconnect has resulted in music education being accessible prejudicially to high-performing and affluent students in our more affluent communities and schools. Recently, this board made the difficult decision to eliminate fourth grade instrumental pullouts. And although we never like to see music programs cut, I strongly believe it was the right decision and probably long overdue. Starting wind instruments in the fourth grade is almost unheard of in music education. Many educators believe it is developmentally inappropriate, and the practice has been problematic in this district in a number of ways for a long time. What is even more clear is that the boom and bust of the pullout programs, we cut them when the money isn't there, we reinstate them when the money comes back, people get laid off and then rehired, other people get pushed out of their jobs. This dysfunction sends shockwaves through the system that have hurt all of our music programs and at all levels. The loss of fourth grade instrumental is no doubt perceived by some in our community as a crisis, but I believe that this post-pandemic moment also presents us with an opportunity. A chance to revisit and update our model of instruction in order for it to become not only more fiscally durable, but more culturally appropriate, equitable, and universally accessible. We can't just cut programs. We need to come back this fall, I think, with something better, something that's more finely attuned to our students' needs. We can and we must collaborate on solutions to accomplish this, and those solutions are out there. We have the solutions. In closing, I would like to request two things from the board and Dr. Clark. First of all, I would like to request this topic be placed on an August board meeting agenda so we can report out more fully on the data we have compiled and the status of our programs and on the wider work of our VAPA committee. Secondly, I would like to request this topic of strategic planning in music be taken up in a proactive way by scheduling a board study session or perhaps a facilitated workshop retreat that includes music teacher leadership, relevant administrators, board members, and other stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bruce, and to the whole VAPA committee. I know you all do a lot of work throughout our district.
Okay, Bonnie Shea.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Clark. My name's Bonnie Shea. I'm an elementary general music teacher in the district. The position of general music teacher has a privilege and responsibility of laying the foundation of music education for students when they first enter kindergarten, and then developing those skills and conceptual building blocks for the 6 years of students in our care at the elementary level. This is a unique perspective that I can bring to the table when matters of district-wide music programs are discussed. I have a lot of time, energy, and dedication wrapped up in every student that moves on to secondary music programs. In general music, we teach to all of the California music content standards, including the main arts processes of create, perform, respond, and connect. In addition, in our district, elementary general music teachers offer choral music experiences for our students. Currently, elementary choirs exist at some elementary schools, but not at others. Next year, as you might already know, we're working to bring choral music to a number of schools as part of the after-school ELOP funding opportunity. This is a welcome step in the right direction since choral music is a known equalizer within music education and has good potential to address the access and equity issues Mr. Rockwell just alluded to. However, this measure is not enough. We should have choirs at all of our sites, not just the schools that were singled out for the ELOP funding. And we need to ensure that all of our students have their legally mandated access to music education. This is going to require strategic thinking and planning, a coordinated effort of a number of leaders and stakeholders. The many changes our school system in the past few years have made us face difficult challenges, but have also brought opportunities to rethink, reevaluate, and redesign our instructional model. If ever there was a time to strengthen our music education system, it is now. Music is the perfect vehicle to deliver what the district is currently seeking: SEL supports, LCAP goals, equity, attracting and retaining students and families, better attendance, and positive school climate. I echo Mr. Rockwell's request to dedicate time and resources to the process of creating a new vision for MDUSD K-12 music programs. I welcome the opportunity to work with other district leaders and stakeholders during a board meeting at the beginning of the school year, and also a special work session with the purpose of working together to build the next generation of music instruction to ensure every MDUSD student benefits from access to high quality music instruction. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Trost.
I'm here to address the council on a long ongoing 4-year issue we've had with taxation and bond issue related to undevelopable property. This has been going on for 4 years. I obviously didn't want to bring it up during the pandemic. And this year, I mean, things were crazy, you know, and our staff worked and we have done everything that your people have asked us to do. We've got the state to certify that it's unbuildable. We've got the county to certify it's unbuildable. We've done, you know, everything we could possibly do. And still we're paying a tax that is not due us. As to date, we've spent $40,000 in the last 4 years. We spent 30 years ago, we spent $2,000 or 2 years, and that was another $20,000. So we're almost at $60,000 on a piece of property that's valued at $100,000. The community has chosen to have us build a park, to have this protected. The National Audubon Society is collecting birds there and telling us to clean it up. And you all have it zoned as commercial and are taxing it as commercial. We are currently paying more than the Veranda and the Willow Shopping Center combined on this tax because it's per square foot or per square acre based. And on land we can't develop, we would love to develop it. If you all give us permission to make a commercial, I'll double and pay twice as much tax. But if I can't walk on it, we're getting, you know, assaulted by the Audubon Society. We're getting assaulted by Bay Area Conservation and Development Commission, Army Corps of Engineers, East Bay Regional Park to do nothing but let it be preserved. I don't see why, you know, the school board isn't even willing to talk with our staff and get this worked out. I mean, this has been ridiculous.
I have a clarifying question, Matt, because I don't think we designate it. I believe the county designates it.
No. Your auditor put us in it. We were out of it for 30 years. Your auditor put it in. And as soon as we notified him, your auditor said, oh my gosh, oh, mistake, that's, undevelopable marshland. And he recommended to you to take it off. Someone in your staff said,
Okay, that answers my
no,
question.
prove it. We need a letter it's undevelopable. We need a use code that says it's undevelopable. We need a planning commission code that says it's undevelopable. Well, these are hard things to get from, the government. The planning commission doesn't want to write a letter, it's undevelopable. They want to say, go through the procedure. Well, anybody knows that, if you got a protected species, the environmental protecting it, I mean, we've got a deed restriction, we've got a public park. I mean, if you read the bond, parks and open space and unbuildable land are all exempt. And we meet the qualifications for all three.
Okay,
So I'm at a loss. And like I said, our staff has been diligently contacting you all. And I have no faith that it won't go another year.
okay.
And what's sad is it's not a budget issue because the community has chosen to have this area set aside for their own space and for their own preserve as a park and as a buffer for the Audubon Society and such.
Okay, we got
Their commitment,
gotcha.
I would like to refer this to
We got
staff.
So,
Yeah.
we will definitely pass it. Staff has heard you, so
Oh, the
Well,
staff has
and
for
to-
for 3
let's,
years.
let's be positive.
To everyone who's coming to speak, the beeper's not beeping, so I'll have to tell you that your time is up.
Okay. Tatjana Leskowitz. I was gonna say, I said it so bad, she doesn't even recognize her own name.
Hello. I'm here to talk to you today about enrollment, and mostly because I don't think that we look at the enrollment problem in the right way. Because I hear it discussed as whether we can't do this because declined enrollment. We can't do that because declined enrollment. We have to cut this because declined enrollment. But that is not what I see. I see in my neighborhood kids, more kids, they're just not going to our schools. And recently, when you redistricted twice in very short duration, I got the numbers from your demographer about how many kids we have. And so in 2010 census, we had 56,000 under the age of 18. In 2020, so 10 years later, we had 55,000 under the age of 18. We lost 1,010 children or humans under the age of 18. During that same time, I took the fall of 2009 and fall of 2019, just so that COVID is out of the picture. This is not COVID related. We lost 3,000 students. That's 3 times that. Why did we lose them? And I thought, well, who knows? But then I looked at kindergarten enrollment. That has remained steady the whole time. It was 2,500 in 2009 and 2,800 more in 2019. Families are giving you a chance. Families are starting in our schools and something happens that we drop out. And I hope and I wish that when you do something, always consider enrollment, always consider the parents. We as parents, and I'm a parent, will always do what is best for our children. If you do something that harms our children, we will pull our child, but only if we have resources, if we're privileged enough to pull our child. Others will not, they don't have the resources. It's a shame for our community. It's a shame for people who can't leave. And so please, when you cut music, ask how many families will leave. Is it more or less than you're not going to pay the teachers? When you cut an elective at Pine Hollow, I heard, ask yourself how many people are going to leave, because you are in a vicious cycle where you're cutting things. The quality of education is simply not there and people are leaving. And eventually that's going to be school closures. That's going to be bankruptcy or whatnot. And it will harm not the ones who left, but those who stay. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Smith.
Good evening, everyone. There are several issues that I want to address with the board. First, the elimination of electives at Pine Hollow. We learned on Memorial Day that Pine Hollow will cut electives for our students. This is an unbelievable betrayal of student and parent trust in the district, when their ability to seek another school that would honor their educational trajectory has already passed. More importantly, this directly disadvantages our students and makes them less competitive with other eighth graders for both high school and ultimately college admissions. Foreign language cancellation. We were told that 13 students who opted in the 7th grade to take Spanish 1A will now be unjustly cut from Spanish 1B. As such, their hard work to obtain a year of CSU mandated high school foreign language will be for naught. Unacceptable. Misuse of educational minutes. Under the guise of SEL, teachers have used class time to espouse their political platforms. They have stepped away from the educational minutes dedicated to their subject matter. Instead, they have replaced their class content with forced ideologies. These SEL sessions are not only unregulated by the district, but they are impediments to academic instruction and also contribute to the spread of narratives that are harmful to student successes. Indeed, one teacher has used his platform to not only spotlight students in the classroom, but also informed me that as a Black person, I was wrong about my experiences and he knew better. Trampling of parental and student rights in SOGI education. In line with my third point, the school has become a space not for academic knowledge acquisition, but for disregarding of parental and student rights, as well as family beliefs and customs. Students are being sidelined, they're being silenced, and parents' directives ignored. I wrote a letter both to the superintendent and the district in-house attorney to be ignored by one and given inaccurate law by the other. Racism has been fueled from incidents such as Black students attempting to comb other Black students' hair, Black students calling other Black students the N-word, and white students being told that they are crackers. The district has done nothing to stop this hatred. Racism has continued unchecked on our campuses, and worse, these comments and actions are tacitly approved by the administrators who do nothing to address them. Body autonomy and gender support is used to harm our girls. A recent wave in the district has been to fail to create appropriate dress policies, and then if created, fail to enforce them. These actions are being taken in the name of implementing gender affirmation practices. Contrarily, however, our daughters are not being affirmed emotionally, mentally, or socially, and our sons are not being supported. They are all instead being underprepared to mature and meaningfully participate in society. These things are unacceptable. I ask you to do what none have done before you, respond appropriately, respond affirmatively, and respond swiftly to our students, to our parents, and to our families. You didn't cause it, but you can certainly control it and you can certainly cure it.
Thank you. Juliana Smith?
Good evening. My name is Juliana Smith and I'm 12 years old and I'm a rising 8th grader at Pine Hollow Middle School. As you know, Pine Hollow has decided to remove our 7th period by reducing our schedule to having only 2 electives. Both 7th and 8th graders would now be allowed to have access to only 1 elective, and 6th graders have none, since they only had 1 elective in the first place. And this is drastically different from other middle schools in the district, where students routinely have 2 or more. A plethora of students and parents here at Pine Hollow, including me, are not happy about this. Not only will we lose 1 elective, we will also lose an entire year to do something that could possibly give us a huge advantage in our high schools, where other middle schoolers, both in the district and outside, will have an advantage over all Pine Hollow students. That to me is very unfair. I refuse to let anyone destroy my education. The teachers here at Pine Hollow aren't the ones who are having some of their educations ripped away from them. They aren't the ones who have to suffer. The students here do, and that's not right. Schools are supposed to build their students mentally, physically, and fundamentally, not the opposite, which is what Pine Hollow is doing to us now. I would also like to add that the current administration at Pine Hollow has decided that next year, if you choose Spanish 1B as your elective, the school will randomly pick 13 students who enroll to be cut from the Spanish elective altogether. This means that many students who spent their entire 7th grade year doing Spanish 1A, would have been wasted. Unfortunately, I'm one of those many students who committed to taking Spanish 1A. The students that are going to be cut won't be able to receive full high school credits from taking Spanish. This again would harm the education of the students at Pine Hollow. On top of that, this school year at Pine Hollow has been filled with things that no school should have to go through. For example, a teacher was arrested for sexual abuse. The schools make us carry around heavy computers every single day, and they won't give us lockers. And there's been lots of racism and hate going around at the school toward white students and minorities alike, and nothing has been put into place to stop it. The resources at our school are very limited, and this means that our educational opportunities as students are limited as well. Many of the students here feel unsafe and unprotected when they step onto our school's campus. That is something that no student ever, anywhere should have to feel. Following up on the elective issue, I sent an email to a couple of the board members, and I attached a petition that I and other students at our school passed around explaining how we were going to be losing our 7th period. I collected a total of 143 signatures from many of the students at Pine Hollow. I believe that this really shows just how many students are upset with this decision and how many of the kids will suffer after this plan goes through. This petition stands for our voice, and we want our electives returned. And we want Pine Hollow to be a better and safer school for its students. I hope that we can have your support to do this, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that concludes our public comment. Next, we have communications, district organizations, and regular board meetings. A single spokesperson for each recognized district organization may make a presentation. Items are limited to those which are informational. Do we have any cards? No. Okay. 10.0 recognitions and resolutions. Review and potential approval of resolution 21/2282 declaration of need for fully qualified educators. Dr. Clark.
That's all right. So this is an annual resolution that we bring to the board. Historically, in the past, we did this with every single declaration for emergency credential. Now we're just going to do it annually, so you only have to approve it once. And the staff looked at the past numbers of emergency credentials we've had, looked at the needs for this current year, and then estimated a little higher than we thought we would need, so we wouldn't have to come back and do this. Be glad to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay. Questions, any board members? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move the board approve resolution 21/2282 declaration of need for fully qualified educators.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. That passes 5-0. Thank you. Next, review and potential approval of resolution 21/2283 in opposition to petition for district reorganization of the Northgate area on appeal to the State Board of Education. Dr. Clark.
Yep. So as you are aware, a few years back, there was an action that took place to separate the Northgate area from the rest of the Mount Diablo Unified School District, and that ultimately was rejected by our county board. And now this issue is going on appeal to the State Board of Education. So just to give some context. So resolution 21/22-83 in opposition to petition for district reorganization, Northgate area on appeal to the State Board of Education. Whereas Education Code 35700 permits registered voters to submit a petition to the county superintendent of schools to form a new school district from an existing one. And whereas such a petition was submitted to the Contra Costa County Superintendent of Schools on or about February 23rd, 2017. This resolution is on our website. I'm not going to read the entire thing, But in conclusion, now therefore be it resolved, the governing board of the Mount Diablo Unified School District hereby officially and formally opposes the appeal of the petition of the Northgate CAPS Associate Organization to divide the district that is now pending before the California State Board of Education. And be it further resolved that the superintendent of the Mount Diablo Unified School District or designees take appropriate actions to oppose said appeal, inform the public on this matter, and to present said opposition in the appeal to any subsequent administrative or legal proceedings on this matter. Madam President, this resolution is now in the hands of the board.
Thank you.
Madam President, I move to approve Resolution 2122-83 in opposition to petition for district reorganization of Northgate area on appeal to the State Board of Education.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, we have a motion in a second.
I would like to just remind everybody that when this came to the County Board of Education, they found that only 4 of the 9 required state criteria were met that are supposed to be substantially met before this can move to a vote of the people. So in my mind, this is nowhere near being a petition that has met the state requirements.
And that passes 5-0-0. Okay, fun part of the evening here. 11.0 public employee appointments. Review and potential approval of personal appointment for principal of Shore Acres Elementary School. Dr. Clark.
Yes, so we are very excited this evening to welcome a new batch of administrators and some veteran administrators to our district. And I'm going to turn this over to the HR department led by Ryan Sheehy.
All right. The Human Resources Department is bringing for the board's review and potential approval the appointment of Miguel Rodriguez as the principal at Shore Acres Elementary School. Miguel is a proud product of Bay Area schools. He has served as an equity-focused school leader for all TK-12 developmental age groups for the past 20 years. His doctoral research focused on the validation of Indigenous cultural practices, positive cultural identity, and culturally sustaining leadership development. Miguel holds a bachelor's degree in political science, a master's degree in teaching and learning, and a doctorate in educational leadership. Miguel and his wife are raising their 2 fierce daughters in the East Bay. He loves international travel, snowboarding, mountain biking, open water swimming, and Friday family movie night. With that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
Thank you. Hey, we have a new board member. Excellent. Starting them young this time. Okay, board.
We call family movie night, forced family fun. That's how it's on my calendar. Sorry. I move that we approve the appointment of Dr. Miguel Rodriguez, I'm sorry, to Shore Acres as principal of Shore Acres Elementary School.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion in a second. That's a 5-0. Welcome. Come on up.
Wow. Thank you so much. Trustees, superintendent, fellow nominees, community members, it's an honor, just humbled. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
No,
We're all
not
about
sorry,
kids
not
here.
sorry. Here it is. And I want to thank you right at the beginning of doing the land acknowledgement, right? I appreciate the questions about, being anti-racist and how do we bring our whole selves to the work that we do. I want to thank the thoughtfulness around not only inviting me tonight, but obviously it's really important to have our 2 daughters and my wife, my better half here. Just excited. The more I learned about the community, the more I wanted to serve. Super eager to begin. I'm not going to start on August 1st. I'm going to start way sooner.
No,
Thank
we will be neighbors. I live right around the corner from Shore Acres. so-
Okay. All right. Come on over. Back to school night.
Okay,
Thank you and congratulations.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Adios.
Review and potential approval of personnel appointment for principal of Olympic Continuation High School, Dr. Clark, or
All right. The Human Resources Department is bringing for the board's review and potential approval the appointment of Courtney Lyon as the principal at Olympic Continuation High School. Courtney has been a proud member of Team MDUSD for the past 11 years, starting her career in education as an English teacher at Clayton Valley High School. Courtney then transitioned to teach English and ELD at Mount Diablo High School and has served as vice principal at MDHS for the past 5 years. Courtney holds a bachelor's degree in English and a master's degree in teaching. Courtney is thankful to her parents who have always encouraged her to be the kind of leader who lifts others up. She also wants to extend unbounding love and adoration to her family, her husband, and 2 daughters who remind her to always show up as your full self, to reflect, and most importantly, to be present each moment. With that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
thank you.
I'll move to approve the appointment of Courtney Lyon as the principal at Olympic Continuation High School.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And that passes 5-0. Courtney here? There she is.
I want to thank the board and the executive cabinet and Dr. Clark for trusting me with this valuable role. I'm extremely excited to continue the positive and exciting work going on at Olympic. And I also want to take an opportunity to thank my Red Devil family who have been there with me from the beginning and really helped me to develop and had the patience with me to develop into the leader I am today. And I would be remiss and in a lot of trouble if I didn't also thank my 2 sisters who are here helping me with my kiddos today. I'm extremely excited for this role and I couldn't be more honored to take it on. So thank you.
Thank you. Review and potential approval of personnel appointment for principal of Walnut Acres Elementary School.
All right. The Human Resources Department is bringing for the board's review and potential approval the appointment of Lauren Ashton as the principal at Walnut Acres Elementary School. Lauren is an equity-focused school leader who seeks to improve education for all students in California public schools. For the past 3 years, Lauren has worked in the San Francisco Unified School District as an assistant principal and principal, where she led both a Cantonese immersion program and a full inclusion special education program at one of the largest elementary schools in SFUSD. Prior to her career as an administrator, Lauren was a teacher in San Ramon Valley Unified School District, where she taught pre-K, kindergarten, 2nd, and 4th grade. Lauren holds a bachelor's degree in child development and 2 master's degrees, one in educational teaching and the other in educational leadership. Lauren and her husband are local Walnut Creek residents and can often be found walking around Walnut Creek or a nearby hiking trail with their pet dog, a pug named Phoebe. With that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
Thank you.
Madam President, I move to approve Lauren Ashton as principal of Walnut Acres Elementary School.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Passes 5-0. Do you bring Phoebe with you?
Hi, I want to thank Dr. Clark and the board. I'm really excited to come back and bring my experience from San Francisco back to Walnut Creek where I live. So it's really exciting to be able to lead in a community that I live in, right? We always want to make our communities the best they can be. And I'm really excited to bring my passion for not only the arts, but special education inclusion to Walnut Acres. So thank you.
And did you bring anybody with you tonight?
Oh, I did. I brought my husband, but I'm sure eventually you will meet my pug. She will
Okay.
become the unofficial mascot. Don't worry. She will be there. Thank you.
Review and potential approval of personnel appointment for principal at Valley View Middle School.
The Human Resources Department is bringing for the board's review and potential approval the appointment of Aurelia Bushimi as the principal at Valley View Middle School. Aurelia's career in education began with the Mount Diablo Unified School District almost 2 decades ago. Aurelia worked as an elementary school teacher, district-wide TOSA, vice principal, and for the past 6 years as the principal of Pleasant Hill Elementary. Aurelia holds a bachelor's degree in business information systems and a master's degree in teaching leadership. Aurelia is a people person and loves working collaboratively in support of students. In her free time, she enjoys reading, hiking, yoga, and spending time with her family. With that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
Thank you.
Madam President, I move that the board approve Aurelia Buscemi as the principal at Valley View Middle School.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And that passes 5-0.
Good evening. It's good to see everybody. Good evening, Dr. Clark and trustees. I just really want to thank you guys. I know it's cliche for the opportunity to serve the community of Pleasant Hill in a greater capacity. I have truly enjoyed the past 6 years as the principal of Pleasant Hill Elementary, and it is a bittersweet step away. A piece of my heart is always going to be with the community of Pleasant Hill Elementary, but I cannot wait to meet the Jaguars, and I can't wait to get to see the middle schoolers. So I'm also very excited about that. I also do believe that it truly does take a village. I do love to work collaboratively. So I plan to reach out immediately as soon as we leave here to Lisa Sullivan and also to the incoming principal at Pleasant Hill Elementary, which I believe is sitting behind me, about to be appointed. So I cannot wait to meet the incoming principal as well, so that we can prepare our schools, both schools, for the transition into the next year. So thank you again. And I did not bring anybody with me because I know you're going to ask, but they are with me virtually. My phone is blowing up in my hand. So my village is with me, my village of family, my friends, my Dino community. And like I said, I cannot wait to be embraced by my community to be at the Jaguars. So thank you. Have a good evening.
Review and potential approval of personnel appointment for principal of Pleasant Hill Elementary School.
There we go. The Human Resources Department is bringing for the board's review and potential approval the appointment of Nicholas Ray as the principal at Pleasant Hill Elementary School. In the classroom, Nicholas supported his students to develop the skills and knowledge to address problems facing their communities. Outside of the classroom, Nicholas has worked to build and strengthen communities of both staff and students to address the challenges facing their school and their society. Nicholas holds a bachelor's degree in rhetoric and legal studies and a master's degree in education. Nicholas is a proud father of a 3-year-old daughter, Griffin, and a 2-year-old son, Brennan. He enjoys gardening, rock climbing, biking, and learning how to be a better leader for his communities. With that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
Thank you.
Madam President, I move the board approve the appointment of Nicholas Ray as principal at Pleasant Hill Elementary School.
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second. Almost. Hurry up, hurry up. Okay, you can clap now. Here comes our board member again.
Dr. Clark, board, thank you so very much for this honor as the parent of 2 young children who are exploring your office currently. I know the tremendous trust that we put in our schools, especially at the elementary level. I'm really excited to take on this position. I know that I have very big shoes to fill, so I'm excited to get started and continue the work of making sure that the Pleasant Hill Dinos are supported to be the best readers, writers, mathematicians, problem solvers, and innovative little dinos they can be. Thank you so very much. It's a very warm welcome to the Mount Diablo family.
Thank you for bringing your family. Review and potential. I think they could run the meeting, actually. Review and potential approval of personnel appointment vice principal of Riverview Middle School.
The Human Resources Department is bringing for the board's review and potential approval the appointment of Charles Harrington Jr. as a vice principal at Riverview Middle School. Charles is an educator with 20 years experience as a teacher and administrator servicing students with special needs. Charles holds a bachelor's degree in English and a master's degree in education. And with that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
I move to appoint Charles Harrington Jr. as vice principal at Riverview Middle School.
Second. And that passes 5-0.
He's not available to make it tonight.
Okay. Takes us to our next item.
Yeah, so we want to just take 30 seconds and let our new appointees, you can exit out and go and celebrate with your families and whatnot. And we want to thank you all for coming and thanks all the folks who came to support them.
And thank
Thank
you for
you.
bringing your families.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's nice to have that noise in our group. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay. We now have a presentation for the 2022 Wellness Triennial Assessment for the Mount Diablo Unified School District Local Wellness Policy. Dr. Clark?
Yep, and we have our own Dominic Machi is going to present this for us, and he's going to be very thorough and very brief.
Yeah, try to do the best I can, Dr. Clark. Thank you. Good evening, President Mason, Board of Trustees, and of course, Dr. Clark. In 2010, the Healthy Kids Act, it was required under the final rule that filing came through in 2016 that we have to do a wellness assessment. And it really is to take a look at our wellness policy and if there are any revisions or updates, because many things change in the school district and the culture kind of shifts. So I'm going to try to go through this very quickly and somewhat very easily. I will tell you just as a little background, I've been in and managed other school district food service programs. Mount Diablo is not the worst. So we're not that bad. I've had other situations where I've had schools that have served ice cream in the middle of lunchtime. We've had pie days where they're eating pies before lunch. And so we really don't see a lot of that really here, but there are always areas of improvement. And so after this, that'll be the work of the Wellness Committee, which I would like to thank all my Wellness Committee members that have put their volunteer time into this. And I'd like to thank President Mason, Trustee McFerrin as being on the Wellness Committee as well. It's nice to have our school board trustees that are on the committee to really understand the work that we're doing. And we really took a really good look at our district. I think we were pretty honest with ourselves. And so these are some of the things that you'll see in the presentation, some of the things we'll be working on next year as we come back with hopefully a revised wellness policy. So, yes, sir.
Can you decipher the difference between the comprehensive and strength scores?
So
it's throughout the presentation. So maybe as you present, if you could just acknowledge
yeah,
that.
and I do want to let you know that we are a member as Mount Diablo Unified School District of an organization called Lunch Assist. They work very closely with the California Department of Education. And they actually put this wellness assessment tool. So when you see comprehensive, maybe, in policy we have it, but is the strength really there as far as are we actually doing it in the school district? So I think that might be the difference between the two. So let's see if the clicker works. There we go. Okay. So the purpose, okay, USDA requires, as I said before, as of 2020, a triennial assessment required for all school districts, local school wellness policies. The assessment will compare the school district local school wellness policy to a model local school wellness policy, assesses progress of the school district local wellness policy to the district policy goals, as well as the assessed school district wellness policy in compliance with the USDA's local wellness policies and regulations. So positive outcomes. I think we should start out with something always positive. Nutrition education is linked with the school food environment. So we did see that in that assessment. Assures compliance with USDA nutrition standards for reimbursable school meals As you well know, we're the most heavily regulated department in the school district with all the rules that we have from the USDA and the California Department of Education. Addresses fundraising with food to be consumed during the school day. That is in the policy, which actually in that policy is supposed to be brought forward to the board for approval. What's happened with the pandemic, we don't seem to see a lot of school organization groups doing a lot of fundraising in the schools. So we haven't really seen too much of that. Addresses availability of free drinking water throughout the school day. I believe that's part of the Williams Act as well, that they have to have, everybody has access to free drinking water. Addresses time per week of physical education instruction for all middle school students. We did see that as we were going through the assessment. Specifies, marketing to promote healthy food and beverage choices. That's something, if you remember, maybe 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we had Coca-Cola and we had Pepsi's on football stadium scoreboards. That is no longer the case. And so we've actually done a really good job here at Mount Diablo Unified. Specifically addresses marketing in school publications and media. I know that we do have board policy that we don't approve of advertising for companies in any of our publications that we do. So we try to be very careful with that, as well as for us when we try to brand a product that we actually put in, that we're not actually advertising that vendor's product, so that we meet the requirements of the board policy. So as Dr. Clark had said here, you see the comprehensive score and the strength score. So in section 1 was nutrition education. The areas of improvement that we had assessed through the tool was elementary, middle, and high school students received sequential and comprehensive nutrition education. That's something that we're going to probably have to work on and address next year, because nutrition education specific is not really part of really curriculum, except for maybe in the next generation science centers that we use the school garden program. So that does support some of that work. Areas of improvement includes goals for nutrition education that are designed to promote student wellness. We'll probably have to have that discussion in the wellness committee to see how we bring that forward, if that is to be part of the revision of the policy.
Can I just ask a question on that?
Yes, ma'am.
So now that we've adopted our new NGSS curriculum throughout our all grade levels, perhaps there is the correct nutrition education already embedded in that curriculum. Would that be one thing that you could look at?
So I think we can work with the Ed Services Office and take a look at that, and then see how that's blended in, and see if we can, I mean, the school garden program, I'll be honest with you. As far as the school district is concerned, we are actually a leader in the school garden program. Jennifer Sachs and her team does an excellent job. The Growing Healthy Kids organization. When I was at Davis before I came to Mount Diablo Unified, we were supposedly the farm to school, the school gardens, but they were all after school. And luckily enough, I got to meet Alice Waters at the Project Serial, and I mentioned that to her because she has been such a supporter of school gardens as a way that you can help teach kids in so many different ways, in math, social sciences, and history and English, because there's just so much to it. So we actually are a leader in that area. So we will definitely take a look at that in the wellness meeting. In the comprehensive score, you see an 80 and a strength score of 70, which is good. Areas of improvement is specified strategy to increase participation in school meal programs. So that'll be kind of on us. That's more of a marketing, but considering what's going on now, we're seeing with the universal meal program, our numbers have gone way up. Address the amount of seat time students have to eat school meals. That is something that is going to be a tough one for us to address. And I am an advocate, I will say it publicly, that I believe that the cafeteria should be treated as an outdoor classroom, an outdoor space, as Ms. Sachs would say it, and then it should be counted in the instructional minutes one day. So hopefully one day, with some criteria, if we're teaching nutrition education while the students are in the cafeteria, can we really count that towards instructional minutes? We'll see. So
Can I just ask one more question?
Sure.
With the comprehensive score and the strength score, are those both out of 100? And
yes,
who is assigning the scores? Is it the wellness committee was coming
So-
up with what the scores are?
in the wellness assessment tool, because it was pretty lengthy, so I didn't add this to this report. Yes, there were scores that were given, and that was developed by Lunch Assist that gave you the percentage. There was a formula that we were to use that gave us the score and the comprehensive score, which are kind of like basically percentages out of 100%. So in the next is nutrition standards for competitive and other food and beverages. The comprehensive score was 100, which was good. The strength score is 61.5, still, not bad, but areas of improvement could be regulate food and beverages served at class parties and other school celebrations in elementary schools. That is a culture shift. That is every school district across this country struggles with this. So that is something where, again, a culture shift, education, that's something maybe a school site council can address at the school site level on how they want to possibly treat that. I know that sometimes teachers have their own rules because when students do have a lot of sugar, they start to bounce a little bit. It makes it very challenging to continue the class day. So I know that for a fact. Areas of improvement addresses food not being used as a reward. That is another cultural shift. I got feedback that a student got candy, a candy bar for a reward a week ago. And so, those are things that it's an education. It's a mindset. It's a culture shift. And one thing I do know about wellness, it's very hard and difficult to just put a rule down and just shove that down people's throat. They don't respond well to that. It's got to be a cultural shift. So, again, the wellness assessment, physical education, physical activity, comprehensive score was 81. Strength score was 12.5. So there's a little bit of work that we can address in here that we'll have to do with the committee. The areas of improvement, one was address providing physical education training for physical education teachers, professional development. And that actually came from one of our wellness committee members that was a physical education teacher. The other is address family and community engagement and physical activity opportunities at all schools. Again, I believe that's a culture. That is an environment that has to be created so families can become a part of that. The next is area improvement was address physical activity breaks during school. So that's something that we don't see in the policy. We do have the words physical activity in there, but we're not specific in detail. So that's something we're going to have to discuss in the wellness committee, and what kind of language are we going to recommend to put in the revision of the policy. Addresses time per week of physical education instruction for all high school students. This is very common. Once the students in the high school level go ahead and complete that requirement of physical education, then it kind of stops unless they're in some type of after school sports or some type of club sports. So that's something, again, we're going to have to figure out to see how we can address that issue. Wellness promotion and marketing, comprehensive score of 66, strength score of 50, again, not bad, but addresses using physical activity as a reward, addresses physical activity not being used as a punishment. This is kind of something common. We have USDA rules that we cannot ever discipline a student with food, but then we also we cannot reward students with food as well. So this is kind of new language that we're going to have to kind of bring out, because both probably are going on, but I know a lot of the staff, especially on my staff, knows that food is not used as a tool for discipline ever. So that is something we monitor very, very closely. Wellness promotion, marketing, again, a comprehensive score of 66, strength score of 50, addresses physical activity not being withheld as a punishment again. And then again, the same, specifically addresses marketing through fundraisers and corporate incentive programs. Next is implementation, evaluation.
Would corporate incentive programs, would that be like the Seas Candy fundraisers, things like that?
Yeah.
The box tops.
Yeah. And we see a lot of those hanging on the cyclone fence, especially during Christmas time. So that's something, again, that's, I understand the fundraising, and you got to have a balance to it, right? But again, that needs to be a cultural shift. That it needs to be something that the site believes, the school site believes in as well, that culture.
Well, we make them believe.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. So implementation, evaluation, communication, comprehensive score 87.5, strength score 87.5. So really addresses the establishment of an ongoing school building level wellness committee. We don't really have wellness committees in our school sites. So that is probably an ultimate goal, that they would have those discussions, especially in their school site council meetings or PTAs or PFCs, whatever the case may be. So our recommendations is really just a recap. I don't really probably need to go through all of them, but again, goals for nutrition education, seat time, regulations of beverages and class parties, providing education training for physical education teachers, and time per week for physical education for high school students, addresses the establishment of ongoing building level wellness committee. We're going to update the present local school wellness policy. That's the work we're going to be doing next year. with the areas of improvement we see, the recommendations that we're making, we will address those in the committee. And lastly, one that this is my own that I'd like to put in. I'd like to put in the wellness policy that we are purchasing using local procurement within a 250-mile radius of the district. We do that now. We just have not formally said that. We do a lot of that because one of the things that I believe in as good stewards of our taxpayer dollars, that we should infuse those monies back into the regional economy, especially the California economy. This is our community, this is our state. So that's something we try to do all the time. So if there's any questions, I can answer any if you have it.
You have a question?
Kind of a comment and a directive. So when I was starting my administrative career as an elementary principal, I was in the district office transitioning, and I actually wrote a wellness policy. And Dominic is absolutely correct. It is a culture shift, and being an elementary principal and not allowing parties with food or food for reward does not make you very popular. However, that being said, this is not and I'm speaking to my administrators in the room, this is not Dominic's job to enforce. Dominic is in charge of the policy, but it is going to be a culture shift from our principals. You know, Margie and Sam are going, Ms. Calbeck, Ms. Allen are going to have to help really guide our principals in changing this shift. Things like cupcakes at parties, food for a reward, timeout during recess time. Those are all culture shifts away from the way in education that business has been done for many, many years. And so, Dominic, I want to, thank you for, again, spearheading this and bringing this forward, but you cannot be in charge of implementation and enforcing this policy. It's going to have to be a team decision, and I'm 100% behind it. So
I appreciate that very much. And I've always said I don't want to be the food cop.
Yes. So, but thank
Well, I
you.
didn't mind that role. Miss Roberts can tell you that when I had the after school programs in Bay Point, I had a zero junk food policy for those hours from 3 to 6. And everybody was telling me and all the other, oh, you won't get away with it. The parents are going to argue that. The only thing I heard ever from, I heard a kid leaving and they were saying, they're not letting us have cookies in the after school program. And I can't, and the mom said, hey, that's them, not me. That's their, the parents didn't care. It's just this mindset that they have to have the sweets and they have to be rewarded. But you commit to it, it can happen. If you build it, they will come.
Well, just to leave you with one thing, we all know that sugar is a very addictive ingredient, and it causes a lot of problems. So it's something that we should just keep in the back of our mind.
So
well,
I
sorry.
recall when we first initiated the no cupcakes for parties, et cetera. And I'm sorry to hear that we're seeing evidence of that again. My grandson said, Mom, Grandma, we aren't allowed to have those at school. So I'm surprised that it's stepped back in. Are nutritious snacks allowed to be served? And we used to have a list on the website of nutritious alternatives that could be provided for a birthday celebration. Is that permitted, or is that now not permitted?
No, I think that can be permitted. I think, honestly, the pandemic, we've kind of forgotten everything, and now we're back on track again. I think one of the models that I have followed, San Francisco Unified School District had a wonderful, they had a brochure they put out. That's something we've kind of talked about, something we would like to do. To maybe there's other alternatives to maybe even food as a reward, or other alternatives to celebrate. But the answer is yes. I mean, there are certain lower sugar cupcakes that are out there. There's also, certain
fruit.
You
I
know,
was thinking fruit.
I mean, fruit is fine. Yeah.
And
of
cheese.
course. Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of that. We have not had that discussion because we really don't see or hear in the Food and Nutrition Services Department when those parties occur. And we really don't even get approached. The only time we ever really get approached when it comes to snacks is during testing periods. Then they'll come to the Food and Nutrition Services Department. Other than that, we really don't get any kind of feedback or any request. So that's something we thank you for that. We can discuss that for next school year, move in that direction. Absolutely.
So is the evaluation tool that was used the WellSet 3.0?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you can go on the website and go to USDA or whatever, CDC Healthy Schools, and find that particular evaluation tool. It took me a while to find it. And so I appreciate that. And I understand that it's a self-assessment. The website indicated that the district isn't required to report it to anybody, but you seem to indicate that we have to report
It
it.
was to my understanding, from what I heard from California Department of Education, that we did have to
Okay,
report it.
that's fine.
I don't think it's a bad, I mean, it's a bad.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. Because we are, our wellness policy, we are each year, but we don't have to come to the board in a public board meeting, but we do have to post so that the public can see the progress that we've made in the wellness policy.
Right. And I will be interested to see what the recommendations are, how we will involve families with physical activities on school campuses, because right now families aren't allowed on school campuses.
Good point.
And,
Yeah, I mean, the one that kind of fits in, sits in my head is I live next to Concord High School. And so El Dorado Middle School has probably one of the most active, I know they're around in the district, being a parent here in the district, my son has played, basketball at Diablo View Middle School. We practiced at, played soccer at Mount Diablo Elementary School. And, we use Concord High Gym. So there's a lot of activity going on in the district. But it will be interesting, and we're just going to have to, that's a culture shift again. What does that look like?
well, I understood it to mean that the families are actually involved in the physical activity,
Mhm.
not just engaging their child with the activity. So I'll look forward to whatever you bring back.
Yeah, no, because the other thing that we have not even really addressed, and I'll finish up, is employee wellness here in the district.
Right.
That's a whole nother subject matter there. So I think we were honest with ourselves, and now we kind of have a path that we know the direction we're going. Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate your time this evening to allow me to present to you.
I just wanted to say, as a parent, it definitely is a culture shift, all of this. I mean, being on the soccer field when my kids were just a little bit younger than they are now, we had parents on our own soccer team that would bring a bag with sugary drink and sugary food for the kids to eat either at halftime or right after the game.
Yeah.
And we as a team had to kind of come to a group agreement that we were only going to do fruit at halftime with water. Like that took some convincing, and we would see teams that we were, competing against bring the donuts, straight to the field. So it's definitely something that takes a whole change of mindset, of hearts and minds. But I think the flyer is a really great idea of having those alternative solutions.
Yep.
And giving people the tools to be able to have these discussions at the school site with what those alternatives are. I think a number of our schools are very interested in it, and our PTAs. A bunch of schools do, walkathons or jogathons and things like that do involve the whole family that are really fun. And I'm excited about the local procurement, not only for the benefit of the surrounding businesses, but also I think that could also be mentioned in our climate, our benefiting climate change plans for the district, because it cuts down on, the carbon emissions of the transportation of the food to get to us in the first place. So
And I'll
it's
just
a
finish up.
win-win in many
We
ways.
actually was serving regenerative beef from a local from Grass Valley this last year, and we're going to continue to do so, hot dogs as well. So, our district is really, we're taking a lead. We're actually working very closely with the California Department of Food and Agriculture, and of course, the First Partners Office on making these changes, which hopefully will be for long term. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Review of the 2021-22 second interim letter, Dr. Clark.
Dr. Gonzalez up to address this.
In an attempt to continue to be as transparent with the public and with the board as possible, this is included here as a reference. We always receive these letters, although these letters typically will go to the superintendent. They will come to me. They will also go to the president. We're just sharing these letters. A copy of this letter is available on our district website under the business services page in the top right corner, as well as on the superintendent page. along with every subsequent letter for the last probably 5 to 6 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay. That takes us to board member reports. So I don't have our students to start with, so how about you, trustee McFerrin? Sure.
Okay, good evening, everyone. In the last few weeks, I've mostly been able to attend celebrations. So I was able to visit Mount Diablo High School for their multicultural assembly maybe about 3 weeks ago. It was a lovely event. The students worked very hard in their clubs to put on mostly dances and other performances related to cultural clubs that they're in. So that was great to see. And that had not taken place since before. I think hadn't taken place since the seniors who were in the assembly were freshmen. So it's been a while. It was good to see. I was also able to visit Valley View Middle School and College Park. I was able to see a little bit of music, actually Mr. Rockwell's class, which was really fun. They were doing guitars, I always like to see that because I have no musical talent. And then I was also able to attend the induction colloquium for our district's teacher induction and support program. And so this was celebrating our newer teachers who just have in the last 2 years worked to clear their credentials. And so it's a really interesting time to get into the profession. So I was really just so glad to see that these folks stuck with it and that they received tremendous support from their mentors in the TIS program. And then I was also able to attend graduations for Olympic, Mount Diablo High School, and College Now. They were really wonderful celebrations. It was especially important for me to be able to be at Olympic and Mount Diablo High School. The students who were graduating, many were freshmen in my English class a few years ago. So it was really fun to see them walk the stage and to celebrate them. And then last, I'll be attending there's going to be a March for Our Lives march this Saturday in Walnut Creek. I believe it starts at 9 or 10 a.m., but I'm not totally sure. It's being organized by a student who is a Concord High student and who has been my neighbor for 14 years. So I will be there enthusiastically listening mostly to students and just being in attendance. If you have any questions about that, feel free to email me.
Thank you. Trustee Zawi?
First, congratulations to all the kindergartners who now get to go to the big playground. Congratulations to the fifth graders who now get to change schools, pretend you're grown, be expected you're grown to be grown, but you're still little children. You're still very small. Congratulations to the eighth graders who now pretend that they are grown, and then we adults are gonna pretend that you're not because you're not. And then, but mostly congratulations to our graduates who get to be free of school, like who had the most difficult high school experience. We're like slowly getting, as you said, your freshmen, the last time they were normal, the kids that you had were when they had you, right? So congratulations so much to our graduates and the families and community who helped them get there. This has been a really tough year for everyone, and for most everyone. I can't say, I don't know if it was for everyone, but I can say that as a parent, I'm really glad that this year is in the rearview mirror. It's really easy to focus on the negatives, but as Dr. Clark always loves to say, there's so much good going on here at MDUSD. Besides all these the littles to the bigs who are flying to their next level, we saw a success in our district in the arts and sports, obviously academics. We saw students at every level being civically engaged, whether they came before us or emailed us or did a petition or changed a mascot or whatever. Got pointing to our non-existent students, trustee, one, being a trustee, two, leading an effort to stop the use of the N-word in high school English classes. Like, we have amazing learners in our school district and amazing adults. It was also tough because we are still in the midst, I would still argue, of a mass trauma of the pandemic. We've hopefully seen the worst of it, but we came back from hopefully what was the worst of it. And we welcomed students back into their school buildings, but fairly quickly got back to regular business as though no one had gone through this mass trauma to one extent or another. Some of us worse experiences than other. And so then as we moved into the fall, all of us can attest from the fall to now, I don't want to say consistent, but the repetitive complaints from teachers and staff at schools, frustrated with the behavior of students and frustrated with the way that was being handled, that they were frustrated usually that children weren't being suspended as the solution. And what is difficult for me to hear that, like we keep hearing that and that as the solution, and the difficulties our children, our students have had this year is that from those same adults, we haven't heard. Instead, we need help helping our children. They're obviously struggling and we don't have the tools. We don't know how to help them. Instead, it's from a very select small group of adults who chose to reach out, it was about literally getting rid of them. That's going to solve the problem. And so I wanted to just share a tale of two teachers. My daughter is a person who is going on to high school, and this year, her final year of middle school, she had one teacher within the first few days of school. My daughter was in absolute love with this teacher. And I think that's really important. One, to have that strong relation, but two, it wasn't even a subject she loves. It's a subject she hates. And she just made this instant connection. My daughter felt like she mattered in class to this teacher. She felt like she was appreciated for who she is, and that she mattered. And so in turn, she wanted to do her best in this subject just because she really liked this teacher, even though she still does not like this subject. And on the flip side, within the first few weeks of school, my daughter started complaining that there was a teacher that she felt like didn't like her. And she gave me examples of what made her feel that way and compared to how other students were treated by the same teacher. And my daughter still excelled in that class, but dreaded it all year. Like she'd always, I don't want to do this or that because I don't feel like they like me. So there was none of that connection made, like that feeling of that she matters to that teacher. And I can't imagine what the year would be like if that was the majority of my daughter's own experience, in which she had no connections with an adult at school. But luckily that was the only one. And she had the one that she absolutely, fell in love with. And then the other teachers who were just like, good teachers who she, again, may or may not like their subjects, but felt a connection. And so I fear that some of our students only got that latter experience. And that is what is helping to, or not helping to support them, and not helping to address the challenging behaviors we saw this year. So that's a very long-winded way to say that I hope that that as all of the adults in the district get to take time this summer to rejuvenate, that all of the adults, including us, figure out how we make those strong connections with children and how we interact with our students each day and how we build strong relationships and connections. And that it's not, you're not gonna like every child. You're not gonna be able to be that person for every child, but we need to make sure that every child within our midst has at least someone, because I think that will make all of the difference, and that we're focused on helping to solve the problem and not making them just someone to get rid of to make our lives easier as adults. So that's my report. And again, congratulations to everyone.
Thank you. Trustee Mayo?
Thank you. Excellent comments. On May 17th, I had the opportunity to attend the Olympic High School Awards ceremony, and that was a lot of fun to see the students who were being recognized, who were present, of course, as their names were called. They walked up to the stage, typically straight faced, though you could see the tiny corners of their mouths pointing upwards, or maybe their eye expression was, you could see the pride in their eyes. So we want to be cool, but they really were rewarded by it. And then there were also students present, or students who received awards who of course had graduated in the fall and were unable to attend, but communicated with the principal on the day of the event to thank the staff for the awards. So that was great. I attended the colloquium with Ms. Mason and Ms. McFerrin on May 23rd. And I just want to thank all our high school staff for an outstanding graduation ceremonies this year. The student and staff speakers were excellent, as were the student performances. And I want to thank all of the administrators who attended the mini graduations along with Mrs. Mason and I. I attended 9 of the 11. Mrs. Mason attended all 11, so I want to give a shout out to her. And I want to congratulate all of the 2022 graduating seniors. The Budget Advisory Committee meets on June 15th at 5 p.m. and that's followed immediately by the Major J Committee at 6 p.m. So our work is not done, and we're always there to support our students and finish the work. So thank you.
Trustee Count.
Right, thank you. Thank you everyone for your comments so far. Ditto to them all. And I appreciate you, Trustee and Zawi, really emphasizing the importance of those relationships with all students. Absolutely. Yes, the graduations were amazing and wonderful. I think I made it to 4 of them, not 11. Wow, kudos to you and to you both for representing our whole board. Really appreciate your dedication to that. And I really enjoyed just being able to celebrate our students and our staff and all of the accomplishments coming forward and being able to see them come to life. Whether it was the student speakers at the graduations that were just incredible, or the projects that I got to go see at various schools. So at Northgate, I was able to see the 10th grade You Can Change the World projects, as well as the senior projects that are a incredible culmination of their civic engagement in the community. I was able to participate in the Diablo View Middle School Career Day, which is really fun to be able to interact with students and describe various careers that I've held over my time. The Foothill Maker Fair, the Project 212 robotics demo, demonstration, and being able to see the seniors from that group who are now college bound to so many different schools and bringing their skills there. The Ethnic Studies podcast presentations by Mount Diablo High and Ignacio Valley High students that was done in conjunction with UC Berkeley, the Ethnic Studies Changemaker team. There is a link in that Friday letter to the podcast. I would encourage everyone to listen. They're short podcasts, but that cover some very deep topics that are really incredibly relevant to our students. And then I want to congratulate our students that were winners of the poster contest for the upcoming Clayton Pride Parade. And I brought some of them for you to see. They're so great. So this is the first place winner for Caitlin Theory from Short Acres Elementary School. This was in the K through 5 category. And then the second place was Owen Quaddy Lee from Mount Diablo Elementary. There you go. And you can see all of these at claytonpride.com. The third place winner is a first grader from Mount Diablo Elementary. And then they had a category that was the 6th to 12th grade. And this was, you can see they're using some computer technology here. So here's the first place winner from Diablo View Middle School, 6th grader. And the second place was at 8th grader, Sophia Barnett from Diablo View Middle School. And then lastly, we had the third place winner, Adelaide Mannion from Northgate High School. So that was really, really neat to see. So congratulations to all of the students. So you can see the winning posters, and if you wanted to sign up to participate in the parade, it's going to be on Saturday, June 25th in Clayton, and that's at claytonpride.com. And then the March for Our Lives is at 9 a.m. As Aaron said, as Trustee McFerrin said, 9 a.m. this Saturday, June 11th at Civic Park. Really excited that students are taking leadership and organizing on such an important issue of gun violence in our local area and in our nation. And then lastly, extended to June 15th. The deadline is now June 15th for students age 13 and over to apply to the free virtual online summer conference, the Ed 100 Academy for Student Leaders. I know our trustee Fowler would want me to mention that. And right now we do have students signed up from all of our high schools except for, it looks like Concord High and Horizons. So spread the word. Adults can sign up too and can nominate students to participate. And lastly, good news, last night, I was part of a group of advocates at the Walnut Creek City Council meeting where they passed a gun safe storage ordinance, 5-0 unanimously. This is modeled from a safe gun storage ordinance that has been passed by, I think, at least 40 cities already in the state of California, many in our local area, such as Dublin and Livermore and Orinda. And so I am hopeful that we can carry this success on to other cities so that ultimately we have safe gun storage ordinances passed in all of the cities within Mount Diablo Unified School District, because we know, according to the data, that when students get a hold of a gun and they're under 21 years of age, 80% of the time they get it from their own home or a friend or a neighbor's home, and it was an unsecured gun. So each of us can do so much to keep all of our communities and our schools safe by simply locking up any guns that we have. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Okay. As you've heard, my favorite time of year is graduation time. It's when I go out and listen to the kids, and rejuvenates me to come back for another school year. So starting on May 23rd, I too, as my colleagues have said, went to the teacher induction colloquy that they had. May 24th in the morning, I was at the Olympic High and Alliance graduation where the student speakers were outstanding. That evening, it was Mount Diablo High School, who all has the most traditional of all the graduations. And they had the bell that was there when they opened the school that they rang to start the ceremony, which was really cool. May 25th with College Now. And that is a college program that was just getting underway when I got on the board, and I really pushed for that, and I'm so pleased with it. And this year, each graduate had at least 1 year's worth of college credit when they graduated, which was good to hear. May 26th was College Park High School. They had a live band playing and girls singing for us, entertaining us. Alternative Ed was on May 27th, which Crossroads, Diablo Day, Prospects, and Horizons, and those kids always have very heart-tugging stories that they tell us on their road to get to the graduation. May 31st was Concord High School, which had the Funky Four, which was a great jazz band that played to entertain the crowd while everybody was getting seated. And then the ladies first sung for us. June 2nd was the Adult Ed Access Program, which is a program that is in affiliation with Diablo Valley College, where they're learning to be early childcare, which we really are going to need early childcare providers now. And they started our adult ed, and then they go on to DVC, and it was amazing. It was like United Nations. There was families there from all over, and they sat outside and they shared a meal and they shared their stories. It was a really fun event. June 3rd with Northgate High School, and they had their senior madrigal sing for us. June 3rd was also Ignacio Valley High School, which had a live band, which they haven't had in a while. So they were very proud of that, and they gave away their Golden Wolves Awards. And then the last one was on June 4th, Adult Ed, the high school diploma and high school equivalency graduations. And that one is always very moving because the families are there who didn't think they ever going to see their family graduate or get those diplomas, and they were able to do that. So I had a lovely, lovely couple weeks because That's why we're here, to make sure we help people achieve and achieve successfully. And we're willing to put up with all of the angst to get them there. So over to you, Dr. Clark.
Great, thank
Looking
you.
for a clicker?
I'm looking for a clicker. I'm gonna go grab it. That's all right. I got it. Stretch my legs here.
Physical activity break. We should all get up. And I should have said thank you to some of my friends in the back row that entertained me at all those graduations.
There we go. All right, so this is my update. I have quite a few slides, but I'm going to try to go through it quickly. I do just want to let everyone know who might be watching is that all of my slides are on my superintendent's page. So if folks want to go back later on and take a look at them, that they are free to do so, and I encourage them to do it. School's out. We got through the year. I just, want to congratulate everyone. I sent a letter out to all of the district employees, thanking them for their dedication, hard work, acknowledging that it's been a very rough year, and just appreciative of their work in serving our students. Also sent a letter to all families, thanking them for trusting us with their most prized possessions, their lovely children, and we're very thankful for that. And then I also sent a letter to the Concord Pioneer today, and again, thanking the community for being partners and acknowledging our place in the community and the support that we receive from them, and thanking them for that. So did put all that out. As usual, we have our LCAP goals that we talk about all of our students receiving a high quality education. We talk about high quality staff and responsive staff. And then we also strive for parents, families, and the community will be informed and engaged and partners with us. And so that's what we want to continue doing. I know we'll be hearing more about the LCAP in a little bit. Also from our systemic instructional review, this is our triangle that highlights learning acceleration, educational equity, and social emotional learning. And I also just want to share this slide. These are the state indicators. And so the reason why we are doing this systemic instructional review and working with CCEE, because a number of our student groups did not meet the goals of the state indicators, which inform the dashboard. And so just real quickly, we have academics, which is ELA and math and science on the state test. Then we have the, and sometimes I can't see that far, so I need my, we have our English learners, but I obviously I can't see what it says under there. Put these glasses on. We have our English learners, and again, it's working with our proficiency rates and the reclassification rates, graduation rates, suspension rates, college and career. And the way that they determine college and career is 11th grade ELA, 11th grade math, and course completion rates, and A to G completions. And I know we did a presentation for our Parent Advisory Council a couple of weeks ago on that. And then also our CTE completion rates, dual enrollment, and AP and IB exam percentage rates. So there's a lot that goes into college and career. And then chronic absenteeism, which means that a student is chronically absent when they have missed 10% of the school year. So if we've only had school for 10 days and a student misses 1 day, they are chronically absent at that point. But our school year is 180 days, so 10% of that would make them chronically absent. And then local performance indicators. So that would be our assessment tool, our formative assessment tool that we have rolled out. And then these are students that have been highlighted, students who are experiencing homelessness, foster youth, African-American students, emerging bilingual students, and students with unique needs, usually students who have an IEP. So again, that's really what informs the dashboard, and those are our target groups that have not been performing up to par. And so we really want to be intentional with their support. Again, we want to reflect back on our many plans that we have, and the size of the plans don't necessarily mean anything in terms of importance, but the LCAP, the Expanded Learning Opportunities Plan, the Systemic Instructional Review, which I've talked about. We have our CSACE plan, our Universal Pre-K plan, we have our A to G plan, we have our tech plan, and we have our educator effectiveness plan. Now, I had committed to this board that we would consolidate these plans and just pull out the things, and that list continues to grow. I mean, we were at 3 plans earlier and really trying to just hone in on those 3 plans, and you've seen that it has expanded to 8 plans that we're looking at, and there are more plans. We have approximately about 20 plans that we have working right now, and I want to thank staff for their diligent work in keeping all of our requirements up to date and all of our reporting. And of course, there's dollars tied to all of these plans, which comes with many requirements and regulations that we have to follow. So just want to highlight. I shared some of this data last time, but just bear with me. There's a method to the madness. So this is, we have Dr. Chenaway in the back there who really helps me crunch these numbers. But this is from our first, second, and third quarter of our local assessments. So again, these are TK. So like something as simple as those kinder letter sounds. We saw a rise from the first quarter to the second quarter of 6%. And then from the second quarter to the third quarter, we saw a rise of 14%. That's in the letter sounds. And of course, we can go through and see how the others progress. We also have that same similar data, but for our kindergartners. I think when the last time I shared this data, I just went through this very quickly. I don't even think I acknowledged it. So I did want to take a second and go back and acknowledge it. But again, you can see how those kinder assessments are progressing. Obviously, when you get these young students in class, the amount of growth that they can experience over a short period of time is incredible. We're disaggregating our fourth quarter data. And so I don't know if I'll have that by the next meeting, but we will be sharing that coming up. And then again, I've shared our IABs, FIABs. I did not include first, second, or third grade in this particular chart because we do a different assessment with them, and I really wanted to limit the slides. But you can see those student groups that I pointed out in the previous slides. English learners, we have special education, foster youth, homeless youth. We have our African American students, and we have all of our student groups here. And so you can see the growth that they have made in these particular areas. And these are the student groups broken down, and these are the overall grade levels. Again, this is the same structure, but this is math. First one was ELA, and then this is the math. And both sections are broken down into the same group of quarter 1 to quarter 2 growth, quarter 2 to quarter 3 growth, and we're still working on quarter 4. So that is our local assessment. We also have a grade function for our secondary students, and we also have an SEL function that I'm not sharing this evening. I also have this for I have this document in here for, and I'm really not going to be able to read this on either screen, but these are our suspensions. If you saw in the local indicator, suspension rate was a state indicator. And what I've done here is I have pulled out, this is kindergarten through 5th grade suspensions for the entire year. Now, how I've broken this down is sometimes when you have a suspension, you might have a student who gets into a fight, but then also uses profanity, and then also does something else. And so there may be 3 violations that student has committed. I just pulled out the top violation on these just for some simplistic sake, but these are our kindergarten through 5th grade suspensions. And we can see here, this top one right here is caused or attempted threatened harm. And then this is willful use of force. So the first 2 here are fighting. And so you can see the amount of fighting that we have had that resulted in suspensions amongst our kindergarten, first, second, and third graders. If you look here, kindergarten is at 12 suspensions, first graders at 92. And again, this is fighting. So again, I said there's a method to this madness as we're looking at our data, because this really needs to inform our practices as we go forward. I've shared the academic data. This is tied to social emotional. And then over here, you have the ethnic codes over here. So we have our Hispanic Latino students. These are our white students. These are our African American students, and so on and so on. And I have a guide that we will post with this as well. So this is kindergarten through fifth. I then have, it was actually, I'm embarrassed to say this, but it was 2 pages. So 2 pages that we put in there. And then we have, this is 6th through 7th. So these are our middle schoolers. And again, when you're looking at the fighting that has taken place amongst our students, you can see that those numbers are very high. I believe that's 513 and that's 189. And then of course you can see the other things that, that students have been suspended for. I can break this down by school. It's already broken down by ethnicity and race. It's broken down by gender. But again, this is data that we need to really inform our practices. And then we have, well, middle school is a couple pages. And then we have our high schools. So high school, again, you can see our our top leading things is fighting, where we're at 499 and 130. So again, that's telling us something. Our kids are talking to us. I know in Trustee and Zawi's comments, we talked about our students coming back to school, our students, obviously being out of school for a year did not help their abilities to solve problems and to get along. And so students are responding to their past experiences, and this is how it's playing out in fightings. And so how are we as a district going to respond? Clearly, we're suspending students. So we're removing students from the situation, but what else are we doing? And so that's what the team is working on, and I'll talk about that also coming up in a couple minutes. So we look at that data, and this is a data protocol that we work on with CCE, and we work with our admin teams on this. So again, just from what we saw, what does the data suggest, right? If we were going back to maybe our TKers or our kindergartners or that data, or even if we're looking at the suspension data. So what does the data suggest? We can share our thoughts on that. What is the data telling us? What are the implications for teaching and learning and assessment? So again, if it's suspension data, you draw your conclusions. If it's the academic data, and again, we have it broken down by grade level. We have it broken down by first quarter, second to third, and so on and so on. What can we do differently to improve the results? What strategies might be most effective, and what are the implications for equity? And again, definition of equity, giving all students what they need to be successful. So again, this is a lot of the work that we're doing at the administrative level, again, with cabinet, with our directors, with principals, and then principals are in turn doing this work when they have the opportunities with their staffs. As we go a little deeper into it, when we just had our CCEE sort of final meeting on the SIR report, and as we're looking at educational equity, these are the things that as we kind of rounded third quarter, going into the end of the year and going into next year, these were things that we identified that we were going to continue to work on and to expand. Continue building out the elements of instructional framework. So making sure that we're crystal clear on what it is that our students need to learn, how we're going to get them there, what they're going to learn, how they're going to demonstrate mastery. Creation of alternative core novel lists for middle and high school English courses. Trustee and Zawi also mentioned that earlier. We had a movement of some of our students that they wanted to see some of the authors change, some of the books change, some of what they were being asked to read change. And I know we have an English teacher here on the board who also could weigh in on this. Textbook adoptions this year. We adopted science and world language, and we've also adopted a calendar that's going to show the adoptions that we're going to make over the next 3 years. And then this is something that I'm really looking forward to. Over the next 2 weeks, myself and the directors, Ms. Calbeck and Ms. Allen, Ms. Sachs, we're going to be meeting with each principal individually, and they are going to share about at their staff meetings that there have been discussions about educational equity or explicit or implicit biases, and what steps the site is taking to create a more inclusive environment. And again, that looks different at every school, and everyone's at different journeys in this. And so we just want to get an update. This is a little bit of accountability there, but also a way to kind of share what's working, what's not working, and where do we need to continue to put resources and efforts. Under assessment and accountability, I've already shared our benchmark assessments with you. The district-wide assessments that I just shared, when we have our March 2022 PD day, when we had that, that's what the teams went over. So during our PD time, they went over the data for their particular school. Every school did it. It was actually very lively and very informative. We will continue that practice. And then we're going to continue to provide regular time to be scheduled for admin meetings to practice interpreting and synthesizing the findings from analyzing the assessment data. So really bringing our administrators through a protocol and looking at that data so that at least we're looking at it in the same way, so that we may see different things, but at least we're not in, kind of looking at it in one way or another and having all the different divergent ways of thinking about that. We want to look at it in a specific way and bring everyone through that same protocol. And just to continue that on, continuing to update our site MTSS framework, looking at the strengths, gaps, needs survey by site, empathy interviews, working with students, SEL lessons. I know we have Ms. Roberts here who, she works with the counselors, and they're the ones who put together those SEL lessons and webinars. And also as a admin team here, we are focusing on leadership coaching and support for our administrators, differentiated model of coaching support for administrators, instructional rounds, looking to bring the TNTP back. They've been working with us in our elementary and middle school math departments. And then also as I shared before, we're looking forward to those equity cohort presentations coming up in this month. Beyond the fourth quarter, so that's kind of where we are now, and really what we're focusing on is that targeted focus on leadership and coaching. We're going to be bringing some proposals to this board about ways that we can continue to support our leaders. Right now, with over 50 schools, we have 2 people who are supporting those schools, and that's just too much for them. So we want to find some ways to support them in doing that. School improvement and support administrator, talked about that, individualized coaching. We want to extend the TNTP contract. I believe that's on tonight's agenda. And then it's crystal clear that we need to follow the work that Trustee McFerrin is doing in her district. We really got to start having those conversations about looking at our grading practices and how we grade and trying to move that work forward. And find school support positions. So I showed you the fighting. So we need to add positions where they can deal with that, right? And they can support that. And so when you have a fight, you need someone who's going to work with restorative practices, who's going to do the home visit, who's going to repair the harm amongst the students, who's going to help the student transition back into class, who's going to provide the counseling. And so we're looking for a Swiss Army knife person who can do all of those things. So we'll be bringing some suggestions forward. I'm just telling you, like, we already have a plan to bring on more social workers, right? So social workers who can really get into what's going on with some of our students and provide support for those students and those families so that we can get those foundational needs met and dealt with so that we can reduce some of those negative behaviors that disrupt the learning environment. And then on-site grade level and department data analysts. So really working with those department chairs, those grade level leads or whatnot, so they can help work with their teams on looking at their data and what is their data telling us. And I'm not just talking suspension data, I'm talking reading data, math data, science data, all those things. Just with TNTP, they have facilitated staff walkthroughs and instructional rounds, if you want to say. So we did 3 days of classroom walkthroughs on March 10th, April 14th, and May 12th. We chose 2 to 3 sites. We had a mix of elementary principals doing elementary. We had middle school principals doing the middle schools, and we were going through a protocol where we teachers knew we were coming in and they were doing a lesson, and it was centered around math. And our team would go in and we would watch the lesson for a little while, and we would identify what standard they were teaching, and then was it a grade level standard, right? So training our principals to be able to, at a snap of a finger, be able to identify the standards, know what standards being taught, know that it's grade level standards, and then being able to positively reinforce the teacher who's doing that, or help coach that teacher to make sure that they're teaching the appropriate standards to their students. So that's work that we want to continue on. We have targeted math in this area, and we've started to make some gains there, and so we want to continue that going into next year. So it doesn't mean that we aren't looking at ELA, but we have other supports in place for ELA. Now I just want to give some general updates. We have been in hiring frenzy, for this year, but as we're kind of rolling into, well, not rolling in, we're already in hiring season. As you saw from tonight, we brought six administrators forward. The HR team has attended job fairs, Contra Costa County Office of Ed, CSU East Bay, San Jose State, Davis, Chico State, and we presented at the DVC Industry Insights. We've held 2 certificated hiring events here at the district office, where we have our directors out, we have our department leads out, and we've actually hired a number of people doing that. We are also going out on the road. June 14th, we're going out to Riverview Middle School in the evenings to do a hiring fair there. And then July 12th and the 3rd, we will be doing hiring fairs here in the district office. And on August 9th, it's still a site to be determined. So we're going to try to target somewhere. We did hold a certificated job fair here last night. We talked about that a little earlier, and we were able to identify some single subject candidates that we're in need of. Also, something that the HR department did this year is they, in partnerships with these departments, they created a series of promotional videos for our positions. And so did one of transportation, food service, maintenance and operation, special ed assistant, instructional assistant. And these videos have been on the Facebook ads, and also they're linked to the job posting. So as you click on the job posting, you can actually watch a video that will kind of take you through that. We're looking to expand that. We're advertising on most major employment websites, and also we're looking into getting our ads put on billboards, local billboards. And so again, this is the start of this. This is, I really have to give some of the HR team credit for this. They really just took this on their own, started this. Now at least we have a foundation, so we can now become much more targeted in who we identify. We have a bank, at least of 5 different departments that we have videos on. They're great videos. If you haven't had a chance to watch them, you should definitely watch them. So that's some of the HR outreach that we're continuing to do. Some other highlights, I just want to say, throughout this tough year with the different variants, with contact tracing, with the way COVID had just been spreading like crazy during some of the months, we never had to close any schools or any classrooms. And that did not come at a free of cost. That was, people covering for each other, folks from district office or other positions going out to school sites, at the school sites, teachers giving up their preps, giving up their time to cover other classes, principals in classes, counselors in classes. If you had a teaching credential, you were in a class. So I'm really proud of that, and really proud of that effort to really support our kids. Dominic is still here. His team 3,892,000 meals served. I mean, that is just awesome, right? And so, so again, I don't know if those were all our student meals, if some of those were contracted out, but those were all student meals. So that's huge. Also, positive budget certification. I know that we had been qualified for some time, but now we are positive. We've been positive. That's something that was said in that second interim letter. So we're very proud of that. We also, went through the process of bringing FICMAC in, and not only did they review our business department and gave us a litany of recommendations, they've also went in and reviewed the M&O departments and given a huge amount of recommendations in that department. The business department really has taken those recommendations and moving forward with them. And I know this board gets updates, and also working with school services also came in and validated a lot of the processes, formulas, procedures that we were using in terms of accounting and in terms of budgeting and analyzing. So we're really in a good place in our business department moving forward. And I know with M&O, the plan is in place and we're going through the process of implementing that. We have to negotiate with Teamsters. We have to write new job descriptions and really, change how we're doing things there to meet the needs. And then just on top of it, just building off the pandemic when, our tech was all over the place. We have a tech plan, and we were able to distribute Chromebooks to just about all of our students. I know I heard the student earlier say that they got to carry the heavy Chromebooks around. I wish we could do something about that, but it is just kind of the reality of it. But our kids have computers, and so that's a good thing. That's it. Whew. All right.
I know I'm dating myself, but we used to have to carry big, heavy books around with us.
Like 8 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just all in all, it's been it's you all shared about the graduation, so I'm not gonna go into that, but I think it's been a successful year. We dealt with a lot of challenges this year. We closed the contract with our 5 labor partner groups, and I know that was a lot of work that went into that. There was a lot of time and effort that went into that on both sides. So want to definitely acknowledge that. But our students were in school. They were they were working with caring adults, and we were very proud at the end of the year to wish our graduates well, but then also everyone who transitioned up to the next spot. Going forward, it's not going to be all rosy out there. I know that our budget looks better, but a lot of that is short time money. So it's either one-time money for 1 year or it's money for 3 years. So we do have some money that's maybe 5 years out, but not a lot. So we still have to be prudent with our dollars and have to analyze our data and really target where we're going to be putting our resources to continue to support our students and to support those who are caring for them. So that's my report. If there's any questions, we're glad to answer. If not, we're ready to move on.
Thank you. And any questions? Feel free to ask.
Thank you for all the good stuff, and I'll focus on the bad because that's always easier. but clearly, again, I'll reiterate, there's so much good going on. The last column in the suspensions, that's African American students, right?
Yes,
That was the last column.
700.
So in every grade level, they are suspended at a significantly higher rate than the next highest, except for maybe high school. It's 600. Who's 600?
600 is white.
Okay. But what I'm really concerned about that, but I'm really, really concerned about 5-year-olds being suspended. That really hurts my heart. Because 5-year-olds are developmentally we saw the 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds running around. They're not very far from that. And I would you don't have the solution today, but I just that shouldn't happen. I don't care. I don't know what a 5-year-old could do and be removed from school. They were fighting. They were attempting damage.
They were being 5-year-olds.
Willful disobedience. That is the meaning. harassing, threatening, and intimidating, and assault and battery. So that just, I can't wait to see how we pay attention to that and how we change this culture that we would remove someone who is 4 or who is 5 years old and 6 years old out of the classroom. Yeah, I think that's all.
Well, I just want to say that, you know, the first step is kind of acknowledging that there's a problem, and that's what we're doing here. I think we've known this problem. Not only do we have 5-year-olds being suspended, our disproportionality is whether it's suspensions, whether it's you know, whether it is representation in advanced courses. I mean, you just go down the list. We're disproportionate in a lot of things, whether that's with African American students, whether it's with special ed students, whether it's with, you know, other student groups. So again, I don't want to sweep this under the rug and hide it and make excuses with it. I want to take responsibility of it. I'm the superintendent. It's my responsibility, and I own it. And we are going to put plans in place and to work on it. We understand there's going to be resistance because it's changing a culture, it's changing a way of doing things, but we're going to continue to do what we can to meet the needs of our kids. And I think really just acknowledging that we have a problem is the first step, and moving forward, we will see how this continues to evolve. So thank you for bringing that up.
All righty. Takes us to
Oh,
our,
we have one more question.
oh, okay, go ahead.
A comment. And I know I'm not the only one, but I was very excited to hear about grading for equity. And I just also wanted to share that sometimes I talk about it in my board reports, and teachers reach out to me and they say, we want to do this training. So thank you for that. I think it's really responsive and I'm really excited about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're consent agenda. Items are considered routine and will be approved or adopted by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. However, any item may be removed from the consent agenda upon the request of any member of the board and acted upon separately. So do we have anything that we want to pull from the consent agenda? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the items listed under the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. You have a question? No. And that passes 5-0.
All right.
Okay. Takes us to our business item. 19.1, conduct public hearing and review the Mount Diablo 2022-2023 local accountability plan. And so public hearing is now open.
You looking over your shoulder for your
I'm
your
just seeing if
colleagues?
there's
No,
anybody
sorry.
coming up for to make comments behind me. So. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Dr. Clark. Well, we are here for our annual public hearing on our local control accountability plan.
I may have turned it off.
Sir.
Say better. There you go.
There we go. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the plan, the LCAP is a 3-year plan supporting the needs of all students. However, it does need to be targeted and focused on for a variety of different purposes. Each district LCAP must include the following, such as student achievement data, goals, actions, as well as what are the planned related services that go along with those those actions and goals. LCAPs must include services that target underserved student groups, including students with unique needs, our students that are identified as foster youth experiencing homelessness, our emerging bilingual students, and students that represent underserved racial or ethnic groups. LCAPs must also address 8 state priorities that are listed there. And again, this is a comprehensive plan. However, over time, what Mount Diablo has done with support from our County Office of Education is that our plan very much focuses and targets the discussion around the instructional initiatives and supports for underserved student groups as listed above. So even though we have a very large budget of $310 million or so dollars, you will not find $310 million or so in the plan itself. It's really taking a look at those supplemental funding sources to make sure that we're addressing all of the data that actually Dr. Clark did share and the concerns that other board members have talked about this evening. The state LCAP priorities that must be included in the plan, everything from basic services to pupil outcomes, pupil engagement, school climate. I think what's important to note is that we are required to include about 24 different metrics within the plan itself. So you will see almost the kitchen sink when it comes to how are we measuring, how we are progressing over time. And of course, all of those different metrics sometimes are repeated in the plan, but what we have tried to have done is to include them in one area and possibly disaggregate the data in another if we are repeating it. So it's just not the same information over and over. But again, these are required by the state. Mount Diablo does not need to include the two at the very top, 9 and 10, which are really for our county offices of education, which is why it's designated with a COE only. So for 22-23, our state board did go ahead and yet adjust the template yet again. So what we start with is our budget overview for parents. And in an attempt to make it super, super transparent, unfortunately, what has happened is become more and more complicated. There's certain funding sources that are included within the LCAP and count towards certain areas, such as how we're improving services for students. And then there's other funding sources that have fallen out. So I super recommend that the community, if they have questions, they can take a look at the back part of the document, which does talk a lot about the instructions and how to complete the plan, because that is an area that has been adjusted year after year. Supplement to the annual update. Well, earlier in the year, we did have to submit a supplement to the Board of Education to be reviewed, and that is a document that has been included in the plan. That is a requirement moving forward. The new LCAP for 22-23, again, what it shows you are our goals, our actions, our budgeted amounts, our metrics, and really what you're also going to see in the document are almost opportunities for crosswalking to our other plans. As Dr. Clark has said, and we kind of a bit of like tag teamed a bit of our presentations this evening, you will see some of the plans that actually he referred to, our SACE plan, our educator effectiveness, because the activities are all interconnected and the funding sources are mutually supporting. So for example, educator effectiveness is mentioned. That is mentioned, that was approved by the board December 14th, 2021. You will find it in goal 2, where it's mentioned on how we're coaching up our administrators, how we're providing professional development for our staff members. We've got our plans such as our SACE plan, which was approved February 2nd, our ELOP plan, May 11th, our adopted budget. You're going to see that mentioned, where that goes into quite a bit of detail tonight. Our universal TK plan, that's coming up the next meeting. We'll be presenting that one where it talks about our youngest learners. So all these plans together are ones that you will find referenced within the 22-23 document. The actions and services to increase and improve supports, that's really focused on those student groups that I mentioned. What are we doing specifically to really disrupt institutionalized racism? How are we providing extra supports to make sure that we accelerate learning for students that have historically been disproportionately performing below mastery of standards? And then lastly, what we have starting this year are expenditure tables / action tables. And again, the attempt was to be a lot more transparent with regards to the funding, how it was being spent, percentages spent, that sort of thing. But again, community members that have questions, I would certainly recommend you take a look at the instructions at the very end of it, because this is an area that has generated a lot of discussion. Again, in an attempt to be more transparent, it's actually caused a lot of questions, not only in school districts, but also the county office. What we are required to do within our plan, as Dr. Clark mentioned, we have state indicators, we have local indicators. And because our California dashboard is one where the data is certainly lagging, this is actually our last fully complete dashboard, and that was from 2019. And that was because very soon after, early 2020, we ended up going into the pandemic when a lot of our indicator data actually went completely haywire on us because we could not have students do the assessments with fidelity and validity. What we are required to do is to continue with the local indicators, which are the ones at the bottom, where you're going to see the purple boxes. And that's really met or not met. And the district self reports on where we are with that. And there's certain information that's included in there. There's certain narratives as well as some rating scales. So we are required to share a little bit of that data with you this evening as we bring forward this for the public hearing. So underneath basic conditions such as misassignments, vacant positions, in basic areas as well as facilities, we really do meet many of the basic condition areas. For example, when we take a look at our misassignments, well, our teachers and our staff members are credentialed in particular areas, or they have proper licensure, or they have proper permissions or permits or something of that nature. And not only is that assessed through our human resource department, but it is something that the county office also helps us with. When it comes to things such as facilities, during our Williams report, there was only one site that was reviewed through the Williams that did not have a good rating or above. And that's a huge shout out to our maintenance and operations department. Under the standards alignment for our local indicators, it's really how are we moving forward with our priority standards, our standards-based structural materials. And we really have taken a giant leap this year with regards to our adopted materials, our science, our world language, the fact that we are starting to bring forward adopted materials as they become available on lists through the State Board of Education. And that's, of course, after they update our frameworks. In the response to the urgent need of this, again, we have budget items that are specifically identified in order to make sure that we're supporting this very, very large expense year after year. And then another area to highlight there is our supplemental reading list that actually has been presented to the board for information. That will be brought back on August 17th for another look. So those are areas that address the standards alignment. Parent and family engagement, another area where we do track the attendees at our PAC and our DLEC meetings, for example. We've got about 51% of our sites that are attending our DLEC meeting this year. We want to include or increase that as we move forward. Again, this year has been so, unstable with regards to activities and sickness and all of that. So we're really hoping that those percentages will improve as we move forward. We also have started to move forward with our ABOC committee, our African American Black Parent Advisory Committee. We've got staff members that are going to start working on that July 1. And we have roughly about 74% of our families that currently have an email linked to HomeLink. Now, why isn't that 100%? Well, at the elementary level, we still have some families that are not fully engaging with HomeLink because there's not like grades or an Aries grade book connected to it like it is at the secondary level. So we do feel that that number is increased from last year, which was about mid 60s. We're already up to 74. So that will just continue to grow over time. And lastly, our climate survey. We did our California Healthy Kids survey again, and we did have a slight uptick of the percentage of elementary students who responded positively to the statement, I feel like I'm part of this school. At the secondary level, it dropped by a couple percentage points. So now it's about 50%. Chronic absenteeism, our last indicator for the local items. Overall, it's about 10.8% chronic absenteeism. And that's folks that are out more about 10 or more days of the school year. At the TK through 8th grade, it's about 8.1%. However, at our secondary level, it's closer to about double that. So it's, again, one of those data indicators. How are we reaching out and engaging with families? This as something other than just an anomaly is important to think about because the COVID was just running rampant. And when we had secondary sites where you had hundreds of kids moving around and all of that, there was a significant increase in the amount of, or the significant number of students that were absent. So generally we talk about our 3 goals. However, the state has adjusted the expectations for districts that are in a certain situation as we are. We are a district in technical assistance. We're receiving assistance from the California Collaboration for Educational Excellence, as well as our County Office of Education. So what they've requested is any area within Mount Diablo, your 3 goals that are specifically addressing the needs of African-American scholars, our foster youth, or students experiencing homelessness, you should be focusing all of those actions and activities in a particular goal. So as we move forward, you're going to see how we ended up moving forward with that. So goal 1, and this is really about standards-based instruction, making sure that we are really focusing on a limited number of initiatives, our adoptions and everything that falls into our goal 1. I really do want to recognize that the data and engaging our students back into the classroom so they're not blowing out the classroom and they're not being identified as just get them out. That's where our SEL lessons and the time and energy and cost spent in those areas is incredibly important. It's that tier 1 level of support that we're going to continue to focus in on. So our students are getting rigorous academic instruction, standards-based, that they also are getting those opportunities to actually engage with the adults in their lives in such a way where they will be their best self in that classroom and end up making academic strides. In this area, also mentioned tonight through our wellness presentation, has to do with our alternative types of educational opportunities where students are supported in a variety of ways, such as IB, AVID, NGSS in the Garden, our dual language programs. So the goal 1 will show a lot of, we'll add a lot of information into these particular areas, focusing in on our student support so they are college and career ready. Goal 2 is really focusing on our adults in our system, high quality staff, in order to make sure that we have staff members on our campus that are ready to receive our students regardless of the condition that they're coming in with, whether or not they've been, on the Zoom classroom for 2 years, or whether or not they just moved into our system and are really looking for a new home. This is an area where we have a responsibility to make sure that our teacher leaders are ones that are ready to mentor and support others. Our principals and our administrators are ready to put in systems, policies, and practices that are equitable, that they're proactive, that we've got systems and interventions in place. So coaching contracts that I appreciate you approving RT and TP one on the consent agenda will help with this work. Our school support administrator positions will help with this work. Our TIS program that was mentioned, the last bullet, expanding the recruitment, as well as the retention of a diverse and high qualified workforce, that will help in this effort. So that's under goal 2. Goal 3, our partners in this work, our educational partners. No longer is the state utilizing the words key stakeholders. They're utilizing the phrase educational partners. And really through that, we're really taking a look at how do we support our families more directly, looking at community service liaisons, taking a look at our how to build out our community supports at our school site. Big shout out to Olympic, who is actually a Community Schools Award winner. So we're very excited to begin that work there and possibly take a look at some model practices that then we can replicate across our system. And then here is our new goal 4. And as I mentioned within the LCAP itself, you might see in goals 1, 2, and 3, some notes that says move to goal 4, move to goal 4. And that really had to do with those activities were ones that we really felt did address particular student groups that were extremely disproportionately being recognized as folks that we need to spend a lot more time and attention, paying attention to, making sure they've got the supports that they need. And this has everything to do with the data that has been shared with you this evening. So employees helping us keep focus on the monitoring of academic and social emotional progress and the growth of our homeless and foster youth, as well as our fabulous SACE team that has already started working, even though their true start date is July 1. We have been in contact to make sure that we hit the ground running with regards to supporting the students and the families across our district. The equity presentations that Dr. Clark mentioned, our administrators will be coming to us in order to present their journey in this area. And we're having them really be quite focused on our student groups to make sure that it's not just talking about all students and what we're going to do across the school, but getting very, very laser-like focused on what am I committing to as a district leader to support the needs of our African-American youth, for example, to ensure that they are progressing or even accelerating their progression so we do not have an achievement gap moving forward. So those folks that are interested in knowing what's going on with the document is online. It is in English and Spanish, ready for feedback. It has again been worked on for many, many months. It's available also a hard copy in our lobby if folks would like to take a look at it. We are asking for feedback as well as input on the draft. It is collected and then it's responded to in writing. We've already been receiving feedback on it, which is very, very helpful. Some of it is just grammatical, like we've got words mixed up or 2 paragraphs seem to be a bit wonky, or we dropped a metric that we needed to include. But we do appreciate all responses. And again, it is our responsibility to have something then as a written response on the website as those pieces of feedback come in. A board presentation, of course, the hearing is tonight. We will bring the document back for approval on the 22nd. There is a requirement to have a document to the county office for review by June 30th. It does not mean we cannot bring the document back. If the board and the community feels as if it needs to be completely redone or we have changed significantly our focus, then what we would do is bring it back through the process bring it back to the community groups, the advisory groups, to make sure they have an opportunity to review it, bring it back here for board approval, and then we would move forward. The LCAP draft feedback can be found on the tab, which is parents and community. I am not sure why, but it is always the very last item on that tab. I do not take that personally. Everything else is by alphabetical order. So again, I'm not exactly sure why we always end up at the bottom, but it's easy to find. So if you do click on that, and I appreciate our public information officer that has been asking the public through social media posts to provide feedback, but it is there for folks to review and again, to provide information on. I really want to recognize that Dr. Clark did steal quite a few of my slides. But I decided instead of just redoing all of them, we would tag team this. And so I do appreciate your attention this evening, and I'm available with questions.
Because apparently there's no public that wants to comment
Oh.
right now. They're not lined up behind you.
They're not lined up behind me.
Go ahead, trustee Count.
I was just gonna say, are you opening to public comment and
I
then
did.
and then closing the hearing, or how?
We can go ahead and talk and then we'll officially close it. So do you have any questions? Anybody? I guess not.
Well, I appreciate the time that
Yes.
Ms. Sachs spent with me yesterday to clarify something that I thought was wonky. So I think I'm a little straighter now.
I was gonna say it probably was wonky. well,
Okay, well, I do then. I wanted to let other people speak first, but just a few things that I wanted to mention. One is, I think you mentioned this at the beginning, that the budget overview for parents is very confusing because of the format that they now have. But I wonder if you can bring any more clarity to it. I think it is written here, but so on page 3 and 4, it
Mhm.
talks about the increased or improved services for high needs students in the LCAP. And I can see on page 4 that of the total budgeted expenditures for high needs students, the 15 million, we actually spent 16 million. So I appreciate being able to see that, because I know in some cases historically districts underspend and carry the funds over year to year. And we really want to make sure that these funds are reaching these students. So my question is on the bottom of page 3, where it talks about receiving 27 million based on the enrollment of foster youth, English learner, and low-income students. And then Mount Diablo plans to spend 21 million towards this requirement. And I recognize that in the sentences after that, it talks about why that is, the recent change in education code, disallowing to count these funds towards that support is why it appears this way, but if there's any other clarity you can give to
Absolutely.
the public on that.
Yes, and it is a great question because it really kind of caught a lot of districts by surprise. In the past, for example, our after-school program, our extended learning program, we have always utilized a mixture of funds. We've used federal funds as well as, let's say, LCFF supplemental funds. And in combination, those two funding sources would be identified as an activity that would prove and increase supports for underserved student groups. So we could utilize, if it was $1 million here, $1 million there, and a total of 2 million would go towards that. The change that occurred in the last budget cycle was school districts are not being, they're not able to count a non-LCFF supplemental dollar towards that activity. So even though, again, we spend $2 million here and then $2 million federal funds, we can only count as a district, oh, you only used $1 million of LCFF, and that is the only thing that can go towards improved and increased services. So we're going to see a significant swing of, well, how is Mount Diablo not spending the same amount of money to support underserved students? And that is entirely untrue. We continue to increase that. But when you're working with budgets, of course, you want to use your most restricted money first. Through our federal grants, there's actually penalties if you have more carryover than about 15%. So there's all of these stipulations by which it would be inappropriate for us not to utilize the restricted funds, yet how we're reporting it out, it actually shows that we are possibly underutilizing LCFF, but we might actually be, really increasing the spending to support these activities that we are absolutely expanding. So a wonderful example is actually on page 66, where if you take a look at goal 1.5, where you can really see that played out. LCFF, about a little over $2 million to support those actions. Other state funds, $7 million. And then when we take a look, federal funds, 2.2 million. Well, on the state reporting, we can only officially count for improved services 2 million of the total $11 million. So again, with that shift, I appreciate the question because it did come as a surprise for us as we appropriately debated with our County Office of Education, and they did inform us that this was a change in the last budget cycle.
Thank you very much, because I know that's a page that our community looks at quite often. On the comprehensive school improvement, the CSI, I just want to point out and appreciate that on page 12, Mount Diablo has had several schools exit out of comprehensive school improvement. Bel Air Elementary, El Dorado Middle, and Horizons Independent Study. So congratulations to those schools. And then I just wanted to say going forward, as we look at the schools that are still identified, so page 15, we have El Monte, Sunrise, Oak Grove Middle, Riverview Middle, Diablo Community Day, and Olympic High, that they continue to be eligible through next year. And so that's beneficial in that they will receive the CSI funds, but it's also something that we want to keep an eye on. And I would love to just going forward, begin to hear about what interventions are being tried at these schools. What are they finding? What are they learning? What is working? What isn't working as we go forward? So it's not a change to this plan, just a thought that came into my mind about the types of discussions we want to be having in this district. And then I want to thank you for, oftentimes I think people look at the LCAP plan and they think, okay, so it comes out in June, you have this short period of time to give feedback and then it's due, right? But really what we are doing, and I think we're doing more and more of each year, is gathering feedback throughout the year on the plan. So I just want to appreciate you for that, and how there is that section that talks about the feedback that we've received from CAC, from DLAC, from PAC, from the community survey. And I like that we can see what it is that people have said. And that I can also see the connections to the plans that are in place. So for example, the DLAC talked about a need for more help with newcomer services. And then just want to recognize our staff that today on item under the consent agenda, item 16.22, we have a brand new CalNew grant that our district is partnering to apply for, that is really exciting for the kinds of services we can provide our newcomers. So just appreciating that I'm seeing the feedback that comes from the community and then how that gets implemented into the plan. I think that there were other feedback around the need for more home visits and mental health. And you just spoke to the types of things that we're doing around that, increasing our staffing of people who can actually take those actions, such as social workers. There was feedback on re-engaging with music, art, and movement. And we just had people speak at public comment today from our VAPA committee, Visual and Performing Arts Committee, about their plans and the way that they're thinking really holistically about what we're providing and investing in our district. So I'm just really excited about how the plans are coming together, even though there are so many plans, I know, but they really are aligning. And then just two more things quickly on goal 2. I noticed on page 44 that it talked about goal 2.7 recruitment from our historically Black colleges and universities, and partnering with St. Mary's to recruit native Spanish speakers. I think those are great things that if we're not already doing, that hopefully we are adding to the ways that we recruit and retain staff. So excited to see that in the plan as well. And then my one last question is just around the grading for equity topic. I know in goal 2, it does talk about ILTs, instructional leadership teams. I don't know if we want to have in the LCAP plan any actual wording that describes grading for equity as something that we're specifically working on. I don't think it's in there right now. I may have missed it, but that's a thought.
Okay.
And that is all. Thank you.
I think that's it. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And public hearing is closed. Takes us to 19.2 Mount Diablo Unified SELPA Annual Services and Budget Plan. Is that you, Dr. Clark? Any questions for the on the SELPA plan? Nope. And that's for action, so I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the SELPA Annual Services and Budget Plan.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And that passes 500. 19.3, public hearing, proposed budget for 2022-23. Should we have the presentation first and then open the public hearing?
Yeah, how would you like to do this, Dr. Gonzalez?
Okay. Hearing's open. Anybody who would like to comment on the budget? Okay. Anybody? Nope.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and tag team this tonight. Superintendent Clark, board members, thank you very much. What we're doing this evening is we are bringing you our proposed budget. Certainly open to your feedback. To start with, there are a number of different resources that we used for this presentation and the latest copy of my notes. Thank you very much. This presentation, we derived a number of different points, whether it's school services, whether it's FCMAT, the County Office of Education, certainly the California School Boards Association, and the presentation that I know many of you saw, as well as feedback from our own staff on many of the departmental needs. Just a real quick 30,000 foot glance at the governor's May revisions. Some of the key points here. He is proposing increases to the local control funding formula, the LCFF base. There are projections for declining enrollment, which we know are very important, although at this point in time, that has not been fully identified. We're waiting for a lot of the sausage making, if we will, with the Senate and the Assembly. Expansion and increases of the learning opportunities, expanded learning opportunities program, transitional kindergarten, school facilities, and certainly the 10% reserve cap kicks in this year. This is what the budget cycle looks like. And so what we're doing is we're starting over from the very beginning. So right now we have a draft budget, proposed budget in front of you. We will go through budget adoptions. This is an opportunity to get the feedback from all of you. And then what happens is a series of things. First of all, we've gotten so good at doing a 45-day revised budget that we have the opportunity to be able to do that again this year. I'll explain a little more about that. But our unaudited actuals fall in September, and that's when we have fully closed our books and we come back and say, this is what we planned and this is what we spent well over a year after we started the process. First interim, second interim, we wait for a number of different indicators, including information from the governor, draft budget, budget adoption. But this is not really an arrow, it's sort of a cycle and we keep going all year round. One of the most important things that we use for school district budgets is something called the School Services Dartboard. This is the dartboard. There are 5 specific things that I would like you to take a look at. The first one is number 1. You see the arrow there, that's for the COLA. Both the both the Department of Finance and the planning COLA for right now continue to be 6.56% for this upcoming school year. They do give us 3 additional years on top of that, although we really only use 2 because our budget is always a 3-year look. The current year, which will be 22, 23 plus 2 additional years. The second thing that I'd like to point out is the consumer price index. You see that that is approximately 6.11%, which is a little odd because of what we're seeing right now with our economy. So the consumer price index is the price of a weighted average of what they call market baskets of consumer goods. This is a range of things from food to housing to shoes and clothing to transportation, recreation, and education. So we're going to watch these numbers. You can see there that the expectation is that over time that's going to decrease, but right now we're seeing a lot with inflation and recession. So these will be interesting numbers to watch. Number 3 here is a 10-year, the 10-year interest rate for Treasury. And what this is it's really a proxy for mortgage rates, which of course we're watching very carefully because that's influenced by the interest rates. And so as interest rates go up, because the feds are trying to really cool inflation a bit, it's something that we have a tendency to watch. So I'm pointing that out. PERS and STRS, what you see in number 4 and those numbers, you see STRS, the State Teachers Retirement System, and PERS, the Public Employee Retirement System. You see both of those numbers going up dramatically, not because they were scheduled to go up, but because over the last couple of years, the legislature and the governor actually bought those numbers down and funded some of that. And now, if you will, we're going to pay the piper, and now that number increases. So that does affect our budget. The last thing I'd like to point out is the minimum wage. So this is information that's come out within the course of the last month or so. There will be increases to the minimum wage. So we had seen that increasing over time. It was capped at $15. And now what we're hearing is that that's going to continue to increase. So it's something that we take a look at with our budgets.
Excuse me, I have a question. Is the legislator done? Are they done already? Because I know they were pushing to have the governor put more money into the CalPERS to pay those down, but are they done? They've done all the
None of that
voting?
is over with.
Okay, it's
With-
still going on.
Correct. With that said, it's also an election year, so we know that there's a lot of interest in everyone playing really nicely. But what we're going to expect, and one of our challenges is we have to propose our budget, we have to adopt our budget, then the state does its budget, and then you have all the trail of the language that gives us all the rules. So we're kind of at a disadvantage. So we'll continue to watch it.
Thank you.
Multi-year projections, I certainly don't want to go through them. They are all here for your reference. But what I do want to point out is assumptions are going to change every single time we stand before you. Why is that? It's because we receive more data that informs the information that we bring forward. So whether it is the cost of living, which we don't expect to change, it could be the CPI, it could be our enrollment. Really what we bring to you is our best guess, which is going to be exact and precisely wrong at the same exact time. But you'll see every interim report, every budget that we bring forward, we're going to have our assumptions. So they are here for you, as well as these on the second page that take a look at everything from our unduplicated pupil count, which we are seeing increase and has increased since the last couple of years over COVID. You see the STRS and PERS. Our indirect rates are going up, and we're continuing to watch what's going to happen with things like PERS and STRS and unemployment. This is from one of the pages in the budget for those that may be following along at home. It is on, I think it's on page 121, but in any case, I wanted to share this one page. We're going to come back to this, but what we've done is there are a lot of numbers, there's a lot of information, and it's really small. So what the amazing Mika Arbelbide, my partner in crime here, our Director of Fiscal Services, what she did was she took this and she condensed it into this. This is slightly different than what was in the board presentation, so I do want to point that out. We went through it again today, and this is something that we've revised. There are always 5 things we want you to take a look at when it comes to a budget. The first one is the revenue trend. So what we see here with the revenue trend is that over the course of the next few years, we see, and this is pointing to our unrestricted. because our unrestricted is where we have the flexibility, right? Restricted means we've got limitations to what we can spend. So our unrestricted, you see our revenue estimations going from 318 million to 326 to 330. And number of reasons for that: COLA increases, you've got ADA changes that we're taking a look at, we've got declining enrollment, and so all of that factors in here. But one of the things I wanted to point out with this one was when you take a look at the combined in year 2 and year 3, you'll see that it's flat. The reason that it's flat is because the declining enrollment and the ADA, the average daily attendance, they pretty much flatten each other out. So one goes up, one goes down. And so you'll see that really, if things stay as they are with our assumptions, things stay pretty stagnant that year. The second thing we always point out is the expenditure trends. The expenditures are based on what we hear from our departments and our school sites and what we allocate out. It is our best estimate as to what we are going to spend in these categories. What you see here, these arrows point to the unrestricted. What you see is approximately 257 million, jumping up to 263 million, down to about 261 million as far as our expenditures go. Over time, though, you can see the combined amounts certainly are higher, and they pretty much go up in 2023, 24, and then they drop again. There are some reasons for that. The first reason is that the COVID one-time dollars, a lot of those funds are going to be gone, and so programs and people would be going along with them. And through 23, 24, as you well know from the spring, we had collectively bargained agreements with all of our groups. And that's as far as those agreements go at this point in time. And then we also have a reduction in our technology spending so far heading into 24, 25. And so that's what makes up the differences with the expenditures. Textbook also. We will no longer, we will have textbook funding all the way through 24, 25. So that would be another difference. Multi-year, with the over-under trend, this is the third thing that we take a look at. And we take a look at where our spending is relative to the money that we are expecting to bring in. What you see there is you see that it is in red. We continue to deficit spend if we spend all of what we say we're going to spend. With the funding cycles the way that they are, I'm not sure how we entirely get out of that. We have many, many years of having deficit spending. We will continue to watch this piece. It is something that we are mindful of, but that's one component we did want to point out. Number 4, the fourth thing we want you to take a look at is the increase, net decrease to the fund balance. This number does include our contributions. Important to take a look at this one. Our contributions are the transfers that we make from our unrestricted over to our restricted in order to have those balanced, are things like special education, athletics, routine restricted maintenance. And so that's another trend that we watch. The last one is the ending fund balance. We want to see where the trend is going. Whether you take a look at the combined or you focus in on the unrestricted, we're looking at an ending fund balance of approximately 56 million, then 45, and then 37. So we see that it is declining. It's not as radical as it was in perhaps some of our other budgets. We continue to be in a good position here, but we do want to point out that there is a trend there that we need to be mindful of. I'm back to this big one. We've decided to do this presentation a little differently than you've seen before. So what we're doing is we're going to take the time right now real quickly to explain all of where these arrows are, or in other words, to go in and explain the commitments, the 4,000s, the 5,000s, and the 6,000s, which we'll show you in just a second. A commitment is a board action that we would bring forward in a resolution at the next board meeting A commitment means that the board is committing specific funds to be spent a certain way. It is a proposal that we have in this budget for some specific line items that either we feel need to be prioritized or we know need to be paid for. Those, for the sake of this budget, would include textbook adoption for the 2 additional years that we had initially taken out, which means we would be looking at 2 additional years of textbook adoption, specifically in the 23-24 school year for history and science in every history, social science, excuse me, in all grade levels, and the 24-25 school year mathematics in all grade levels. The remaining 2 years of our PARs are PARs. Help me out. We love acronyms. Public retirement system.
Yes.
Anybody's got the A, let us know. The last 2 years of that, 3 years of that.
22, 23, 26.
And the commitment that we have for the negotiated salary increases that we already have, that we have agreed to with our bargaining groups. There are also some specific assignments that we wanted to point out. One of those is the LCFF supplemental. It has the same exact restrictions. And so you're going to see, we started that this year. We will continue that forward. If LCFF supplemental is not spent, it will go down in an assignment because it is required to be spent with the same exact parameters in which it was assigned or awarded, if you will. There's an assignment for vacation payout that we are hoping is going to be dwindling. An assignment for deferred maintenance, which will address the shortcoming between what we already have budgeted and the significant needs that we have at our school sites, which is also noted in the FCMAT report, and the assignment of an inflation factor. Wanted to break down books and supplies because this seems to be very confusing and there seems to be a misunderstanding every year that these are just books and supplies, except the nuance really comes in the second half of that, which is supplies. So wanted to give this definition that books and supplies are textbooks. However, they are every single material. So as you look around this room or you look around any school, any classroom, anything that we purchase can fall in the area of books and supplies. This is materials, furniture, Chromebooks, believe it or not, it's anything $500 or less. Any tech equipment, fuel, we know how that's going up. Auto parts, tires, all of our school allocations, many of our grant funds, they come into the 4,000s. And then if something needs to change, like it goes from a book and supply into somebody wants to create a contract, it comes into the 4,000s and then it gets moved back out again. So the 4,000s become a catch-all location, if you will, for any funds that we have that come in, plus anything that doesn't fit anywhere else. So we took the time, Mika took the time to break all of this down for you so that you can see exactly what is inside the 4,000s. You see $5.4 million for instructional materials and supplies. This includes additional local control funding formula supplemental support for all of our school sites based on the amount per student. It's our school site holding accounts. So these are all the funds that sit at school sites that they have, whether it is a grade level fund, whether it is a donation fund, everything here sits here in this location. It's all of our textbook adoption that we're looking at for this coming school year. That's estimated to be $11.1 million for language arts, ELD, and for ALD in the middle and high school levels. All of our transportation, fuels, parts, and tires, technology, special education, specialized needs, and furniture equipment. In a nutshell, that makes up approximately, well, not approximately, almost all of what we're putting in the 4,000s for this upcoming school year. The 5,000s are the services and operating expenses. So you can see here, this would be any external transportation, student placements, material service contracts, any services, any travel, conferences, rental, leases, repairs. And so we have a breakdown here for you as well, from top to bottom, largest to smallest, and on what categories those are. One thing I would like to point out is allocations to school sites. This includes an additional 1.2 million that we are proposing for site needs and for site improvements. So what we've done is the site discretion budget has been approximately $48 for the last couple of years. Prior to COVID, it was higher. We are proposing this come back and to increase from $48 to $90 per student. Let me break that down, but if you've got a school of 500 students, it means that it would go from $24,000 up to $45,000. We're doing this because we have listened to our site administrators. Let us know over and over that they have specific needs. We're going to give them the opportunity to address those needs. We'll put some constraints on them, so it's not a free-for-all, but it's going to be all those things they've been letting us know. It's a garden, it's a marquee, it's curtains, it's outdoor teaching areas, it's projection displays, it's tables, chairs, furniture, sound systems. All of these things that they've talked about are what would be included here. So that would increase the budget as well. I would like to quickly break down capital outlay. These are called our 6,000s. Typically, this is anything where a single item is $10,000 or more, or it is anything that is using federal grant funds. This is technology. It's a lot that's related to facilities. It's the CTEIG grant, health and safety. And so we have all of this broken down as well. Quickly, future considerations and risks. I'm doing this one. Future considerations and risk. Here are all the things that we are continuing to be mindful of. The economy, supply chain, inflation, stock market volatility, enrollment. We don't know what's going to happen with our enrollment, right? We're doing our best guesses right now. Pension, operating expenses, and the one-time dollars that will be coming in related to the discretionary grant that the governor is talking about, where the Senate and the Assembly have vastly different ideas as to what that would be used for and the amounts. Some things that we're taking a look at. We will do, again, a 45-day budget. We're going to take a look at some specifics. There is a lot of talk in the state around that discretionary block grant, so that will be clarified. Right now, we certainly don't want to spend any money if we don't know what the rules are. Any changes to average daily attendance, that has not been finalized. Trailer bill language for the expanded learning opportunities grant, ELOP, because we love our acronyms, and other block grants and trailer bill language as well that the governor and the Senate and the Assembly are all talking about. So because there is so much in flux, we will be bringing a 45-day revised budget back. But that doesn't mean that our work ends there, because all summer we have a lot of work to do, as Mika will explain.
Thank you. So during the summer, fiscal will be super busy. Working on the closing of the book, but before we close, we take a look at expenditure one more time to see if any unrestricted expenditure can be paid with restricted money. And when we find something that's in compliance with one-time money, Title I money, any restricted money, we're going to do the journal entry from unrestricted side to restricted side so that we can free up some of the fund balance. And so when we do that, you will see the fund balance will go up in unrestricted side, which will be a little bit different from what we are presenting. And ending fund balance increases, that means beginning fund balance increases for next year. So we have more flexible money. So we will be busy working on that. And summer school will have July 10th, August 10th payroll. They will be busy working on that, extended year payment. And we're going to have deferred pay as well. And then we also need to look at the special ed MOE, making sure that we meet the MOE because penalty is pretty steep. Maintenance of effort, thank you. So another journal entry, we may need to recategorize anything that's appropriate. And it's not only the special education, we need to look at the instructional side too. And Title I, Jen mentioned earlier, it has 15% maximum carryover cap. So we need to take a look at it. And if we don't have 15%, we again look at all the expenditures, see, can we pay from Title I, you know, and then Title II, Title III, Title IV, we look at all those things. And then we'll keep monitoring how state will come out. There are many uncertainties. Some were included in the 22-23 budget. Some we didn't hear, it may not go through, so we didn't include. But if it does go through, then we have to include it in the budget. So summer will be busy.
So at this point, we are welcome to comments. We are happy to answer any questions, take feedback. Questions or comments?
All right, I have just one, I think. So first of all, I just want to appreciate your presentation and going through those questions that are so common, like the books and supplies. May as well explain that up front. So I appreciate that. Just one question, when you described the new allocations to school sites, you talked about could be for a garden or marquee, a sound system. I'm wondering if that's intended to be for facilities type things like a marquee or a sound system, or if it's intended to be an allocation for services that oftentimes school sites will look at their site funds and say, we need a reading specialist, a math interventionist, or a community liaison position. So is it more people or more facilities?
So we were
focused?
really looking at more facilities and other, but at least for the time being, what we've done is we put them over in the 5,000s so that if they want to move them over to people, they can. The challenge with moving them over to people is right now, this is a one-time opportunity. And what we've really heard from our site administrators is, look, we really have all these other things we would like to take care of. They did all receive an email from me earlier today explaining our intent and the fact that as an executive cabinet, we would go back and give some guidance. And earlier today, I had the pleasure of working with our director of purchasing, Elizabeth McClanahan, where we started brainstorming all the things that she's been hearing about from school sites. So our intent is not to be restrictive, but to give some guidance, but we do want it to be thoughtful and we do want to make sure that it's spent. So my
Thank
answer
you.
is there will be some flexibility, but ultimately there are some big needs that sites have.
Yeah, I've definitely been hearing about sound systems at multiple sites, makes it hard to even hold a meeting and meet with parents or students or hold a performance. Definitely been hearing the marquees. Would it also include I know some of our sites have the water fountains with the filters that are accessible outside for athletes, and others don't have that yet. I think our high schools don't have them yet, but our middle schools do. I don't know if that would be something.
We made sure before the start of this school year that every single school site had at least one outside and accessible. So not in a gym, let's say,
Okay.
or an MP. So Melanie is nodding in the back that yes, we have them outside at
Okay.
every site.
Including the high schools? Oh, okay. I would love to see where it is at Ignacio Valley High School because we spend a lot of money, parent money on just water bottles, lots and lots of waste of water bottles. So that would be great to know. Thanks.
By the way, we put those in using COVID funds.
Right.
Questions? Okay, I guess our public hearing is closed. Thank you, ladies. Okay. 19.4, review and potential approval of nomination of new members to the Budget Advisory Committee.
Oh, if there's any questions, most of these are, most of these next items, again, are pretty self-explanatory. And if you have questions, then I'll respond or have staff respond.
Madam President, I would move that the board approve Andrea Rios and Cindy Dunn to serve on the Budget Advisory Committee.
Second.
Thank you. A motion in a second. And that passes 500. Review proposed course of study for 6th grade accelerated Spanish. This is for information.
We do have some staff who would like to talk about this, or
Hello, good evening, Superintendent and board members. Catherine and I want to talk to you about the approval of our Spanish 6 as well as that text that we are using for that class. So as you know, Mount Diablo has schools with bilingual programs, and our students started moving into middle school. And so we needed to create a course of study to support the students in the developing of the biliteracy. Now, you will say, well, how come they cannot take the Spanish at the middle school? They cannot take the Spanish at the middle school because these kids come with a much higher level in Spanish. And in addition, at middle school, the kids don't take Spanish 1 until they are into 7th grade. So therefore, they need to come up with a specific course of study for these students that wanted to continue developing their biliteracy pathway. And the ultimate goal for our students will be that they will graduate with a seal of biliteracy. I don't know what happened with the PowerPoint, but I'm telling you the whole story. Okay, so the class is aligned to the California standards in Spanish, is very rigorous, and it will continue and push the students to improve their oral fluency, reading texts that are fiction and nonfiction, and also writing at that level of proficiency. This class is being taught at 4 schools, at Ola Language Academy, at Oak Grove, at Riverview, and at Foothill.
So this is the course of study, is aligned actually with all 3 of our LCAP goals. And we have seen these a few times this evening, so I'm not going to go through them again. But I just wanted to highlight the timeline. So the course of study is generally a 3-year pilot before you approve them. And so you can see in the 1920 school year, we had Holbrook Language Academy, Riverview Middle School, and Oak Grove Middle School began piloting the course, and they worked with administrators from the EL department who observed. And then in that spring of 2020, students, teachers, and families were surveyed for input. We have those surveys. And then the following year, 2021 school year, we had the same three schools, and then Foothill Middle School was added because those were that school was receiving students from the bilingual program from Bancroft. And then we were on Zoom. So in the fall of 2020, there was a Zoom meeting with the teachers and department admin and principals to gather input about the course. And also surveys were collected from students, teachers, and families. And then finally this school year, kind of the same thing, the same for schools. And then we had a meeting this past November, gathering more teacher input. We'd had a few changes in teachers between these 3 years. We added the Ahora magazine and Palabra Amiga, which is a grammar piece. They were added as supplementals because teachers were saying that that was lacking. And so you'll see in a moment that this timeline is identical to the timeline with the textbook Maravillas that we are using with this course of study for the 6th grade accelerated Spanish. So this is short but sweet, but if there are questions about the course of study, I think you all have the actual copy of the course of study provided.
We do have a public comment, which I think we'll take that first and then because they might have questions. So Tatiana?
Hello. I am a parent of a child, of 2 children in dual immersion. My oldest just finished 7th grade in Foothill, so she was the first cohort of dual immersion, which is different than the bilingual program that started a year ahead of them. And we've done the 6th grade program, and it's lovely if it works like that, but it doesn't. Our children, at least to my view, are not at that level. They're not at that level to be at the same level as the English language arts. They are way ahead of, hola, me llamo, but they are below 6th grade level, or at least when she was in 6th grade. And my child can watch TV in Spanish, she speaks fluently, but it was just too hard. There was crying, beyond COVID, it was a lot of drama because she did not understand. And could be my child. She gets good grades, but I would like you to ask how many of our kids are proficient, because I have not seen the data. We are never tested on our proficiency. The teachers grade them, but there's really no grading of actual language skills, not identifying the elements, but rather speech, understanding, vocabulary, grammar. None of that exists. So how do we know that we're serving our children if we don't know where they are at? And I don't think they're quite as high as this makes it seem. At Foothill, so first of all, I would like to know what the goal is as well for our children. This presentation says Spanish honors in 10th grade. If you start Spanish in 6th grade, you get to honors in 11th grade. So that's a year difference. Is 6 years of Spanish at this high level? Is that the expectation? 1 extra year of head start. But then also to the textbook, because I also want to cover that. It has no explanations, none whatsoever. We don't know what we're doing. The kids don't know what they're doing. It's just text. It's problematic in English, and that's not an issue, but without an English equivalent, parents can't help. So now I know how immigrants feel when they're trying to help kids with English. There's nothing to explain what we're doing. There's nothing to Google. There's nothing. We are helpless, and our children are helpless. And this year at Foothill, they are using a different textbook because my daughter's teacher in 6th grade said that that was not a good textbook, that they abandoned the use of that textbook, started reading a book, which by the way was wonderful, just like book reading. We do not have to do Common Core for dual immersion and accelerated Spanish. We can do better. We can do where our kids are at. And so when you review this, ask and think, where do we want to be and where are we now? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. You guys want to respond or?
The course was designed, and the program was designed so that students will develop biliteracy in English and in Spanish. You have to understand that when that children sometimes are gonna be stronger in one language than the other one, depending of the support or the resources that the students have. Now that the teachers are supposed, and we always talk to them, that they, in the same way that they scaffold the instruction in English, they have to scaffold the instruction in Spanish. And yes, our goal is for the students to be taking honors or an advanced Spanish by 10th grade, because a student that takes a Spanish in 7th and 8th, that's a Spanish 1, and then goes to a Spanish 2 in 10th grade, in 9th grade, and then Spanish, what Spanish did I say? Yeah, and sophomore. So I feel that if we feel that if our students have been studying in a bilingual program for 8 years, they should be ahead than someone that starts in 7th grade with a Spanish 1. Now, if the students are having difficulties, there are resources in the program to support them. They have like a library that they are at different levels, in the same way that a teacher that is teaching English or it's teaching math needs to provide additional support to the students that they need. It's the same in Spanish. And yes, it's a rigorous text and it's a rigorous course, because we are not teaching Spanish of 3rd grade. This is a Spanish 6. Now we brought other resources like the magazine that they are reading, that focused in other areas, is more entertaining. It's more the cultural aspect of Spanish, as well as the support book Palabra Amiga, because we understand that exactly like in social studies or chemistry, sometimes students cannot develop a gap. We needed to provide something. So we are willing to look, and we revise the course, and listen, and we are listening to their comment, and I want to thank her for her comment, because it's an important point of view that there's a segment of the population that may need more help, because yes, in a dual language program, you have native students of Spanish with English only students, that they do not have the same command, and it's just the reverse of my English learn.
Thank you.
It's very, very similar because these happened in tandem. It's under the, well, I'm sorry, I guess this is the one, they're different item numbers, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, so that's.
Was this information only? This
Yep.
is info only? All right.
Thank you.
Can I just ask then, while they're pulling that up? So when I look at the full description, not just the PowerPoint, right? The course of study. The description includes not just the textbook, right? It has them reading historical fiction, personal narrative, biographies, poetry, drama. And so it seems like, yes, they would not just be using the textbook, they would also use those other tools and be reading books like was described. So that sounds like that's all part of the course. As far as assessments, it says at the end, assessments including methods and or tools, standards aligned, informal and formal assessments. And there are unit assessments. Each unit is about 6 weeks. So if a parent is wondering what the structure of this is and how do you know if they've met those goals, where would they find
So the assessments are at the end of the units within the Maravillas.
within the textbook? Okay.
Regarding the text, I want you to know that Maravillas is the text that we use kindergarten through 5th grade in dual language. So we thought that Maravillas would be the best option because we were maintaining the same structure that the students were used to. This is 6th grade. It's just a continuation with the same text than 5th. So it's not that we brought for them a different one.
So
We
it's
are
not a new system.
yeah, we are piloting a different one for 7 and 8 because they are texts to learn Spanish as a foreign language, but they are very few texts that teach Spanish based on the standards. Now, regarding the assessment, we have found an assessment by a company, Advent. And this year, we gave the assessment to the 8th grade students at the end of the year to see what is their level, because they were going to be going to high school, and we plan to implement that at the other grades too.
Thank you. And just lastly, I just want to make sure I'm understanding where this fits into the existing courses. So a student who would, like you said, a student who starts Spanish in 7th, 8th grade would be Spanish 1, 9th grade would be Spanish 2, 10th grade would be Spanish 3, or I think that's usually where the honors comes in. It's 3 honors.
Generally Spanish 4 is where the honors are. So each school has a little differently, but I.
Okay, that's my confusion.
Honors and then they can go to state.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe just as you roll this out, it'd be great to have that sort of chart of what's the pathway all the way through 12th grade for this student versus a student who starts in 7th grade, just so people understand, if their child takes this class, where are they going from there? I know it's confusing for me to have a 10th grader and looking at what's the difference between 3 or 3 honors or that kind of thing. And if it is different for different schools, maybe that's some alignment work that we
Yeah,
can do.
it's depend
as
of the
well.
school because some they have the AB, some they have the AP,
Mhm.
or they have honors and AP. And there are some students that they take Spanish for Spanish speaker
Right.
in the middle school. And then after 2 years of Spanish for Spanish speaker, they go to a Spanish 3 and honors. So not
Yeah.
everyone follows the same
Right.
track.
Right. So I guess just in the description where it says they want to be ready for 10th, did it say 10th grade honors?
Yes, 10th grade.
Okay, so understanding what that honors means, is it 3 honors? Is it 4 honors? Is it, anyway, just as you think about this moving. forward.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, I did have a question.
Go ahead.
The parent indicated that the teacher put the textbook aside. So then the student doesn't have a textbook to bring home and share with their parent for support. I'm struggling with that approach. And, being a parent that has always wanted to provide assistance to my child when they ask for help, that's very frustrating. Now, the parents seem to indicate that the novel was a good choice, but still there's no support for the parent in working with the child. So maybe you can explain more to me about that later. The other part of I'm looking at on the assessments is that it doesn't talk about any oral language assessment. So are the students evaluated or tested orally as part of their assessment?
Yes, every unit has a section where they can administer an oral assessment, or they can do a presentation depending on what are the standards that the teacher is working on.
So I'll read this course of study again, but I don't see anything that right here that describes an oral assessment.
Okay.
And
we will look at it.
I would think that might be important too. And that's another thing that parents should be able to see as far as their students' grades, I would hope.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, the next one is to review and potential approval of the proposed textbook adoption for the 6th grade accelerated Spanish. So this one says info or action. So what is the board's pleasure? You want to wait till next month?
Was there a presentation on this?
Presentation
or-
on this. I mean, I don't
This,
think
oh,
there's
different,
no
okay, different
presentation.
presentation, all right.
So there is no presentation for the textbook, is that correct?
Yeah, it's, well, somehow I didn't get downloaded, I guess. But it's pretty much the same timeline, the same preschool as the first year, then the brought on Foothill, middle, the second and third year. It's about this.
Do you want to come up to the microphone
I'm
just
so
for the,
sorry.
for anyone watching from home?
Yeah, sorry, thank you. So it is pretty much in tandem with the presentation in terms of the timeline. The 1920 school year, we had the 3 mentioned middle schools, and then in that second year, we added on Foothill Middle School. But this is specifically about the textbook Maravillas, which Carmen just mentioned is the reason that the thinking behind that was because our students who begin with us in our kindergartens or wherever they start in our dual language programs, that is the textbook that they have been using for the 6 years coming out of the dual language programs. And so in support of that transition from being in 5th grade to moving on to middle school, the thought was to continue something that looked familiar. So it is also something that our students have all seen when they're doing their English language arts because it's very aligned with the Wonders textbook. So this textbook should feel very familiar and rigorous. It is rigorous. It's 6th grade standards. So that is rigorous. And the goal is that our students who are coming out of our dual language programs are able to work at grade level in both languages, which is a tall order.
In the summary, it says teachers, students, and families have had the opportunity to give feedback
Mhm.
on the Maravillas textbook, and it has been overwhelmingly positive. How did they give the feedback? Was it like a survey?
We
or-
had the textbook Maravillas was out in Willow Creek, and for I think 2 weeks, and people who came by gave feedback. Teachers also asked parents to give feedback, and I joined this in this year, but I believe we also have that feedback from the 2 years prior as well.
So it'd be from the families who were in the pilot for the 3 years?
Oh, no, each year people were asked. So it's a different group of kids because it's sixth grade 3 years ago, sixth grade 2 years ago, and then this group of sixth grade parents.
So I'm pleased to see that the description here says that the textbook includes materials to develop the student's academic language in the subject areas of history and science. So it's expanding from conversational Spanish to more subject matter focused, so that builds vocabulary and knowledge. What I'm trying to understand is it says an additional 2 years was needed for the pilot program to align with ADG requirements. So were the teachers and or you developing, what do I want to say, the materials, or trying to figure out how it aligned to the ADG requirements? Can you explain that more?
I can't because I wasn't here for that, but
Yeah, that's my question too.
No, what happened is that when we were creating the program, we were following a model, for the creation of courses. But then midway there, the district decided that we were gonna follow the A through G model of developing courses. And so we kind of have to start again because we needed to write a description for each unit that the teacher was teaching. It was just slightly different that we were doing under the old format that we were given. It's the same format of the courses that you have approved for AVID for English language arts and math.
So I've normally seen A through G as something for high school courses. I guess I haven't seen it for middle school, but you're just talking about the format
It's
of the course.
format. It's the format, not that the course is A through G. The students are gonna get exactly like one year credit, but I'm talking about the format. That's what it changed.
So
So do we want to,
that's it. We either make a motion tonight or we
Yeah.
put it off to the next meeting.
I move we approve the proposed textbook adoption for sixth grade accelerated Spanish.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
The motion was trustee and Debbie.
I can't correct.
Did you want to make that correction before we vote?
I
or-
think that it should correct. They corrected on
Oh,
mine when I sent
think-
it.
oh, thank you. Technology. Okay. I
Thank
see
you
it now.
for
Thank
your questions.
Thank you.
Thank
Wait a minute. Let's still wait here. Yeah, mine worked. Okay. Apparently the machine's getting as tired as we are. It took its time. 500. Okay, now. Review and potential agreement of an updated salary schedule for 2022-23 between adult education and unrepresented adult education certificated hourly employees.
We already have the team here to present this. Go right ahead.
And actually, Director Victoria Bonte is here to answer any questions you might have about the adult education salary schedule for next year.
I don't have any questions, but you missed my bragging about your 2 grade graduation you had over there.
Actually, I was in Boca Vista and heard it.
Okay.
Before I came here. We had student presentations tonight.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion if there's no questions.
Madam President, I move to approve the updated salary schedule for adult education for 2022-23, effective July 1st, 2022.
Second.
Trustee Mayo.
And there you go. Got the 500.
Thank you very much, and the adult ed staff greatly appreciate the tremendous support we have from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see new higher salaries. Let's fill those positions.
Review and potential approval of the updated 2022, 2023, and 2023, 2024 salary schedules for noon duty supervisors and classified assigned flat hourly rates.
Dr. Scudero.
And I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
There's no questions. I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I'll move that the board approve the updated 2022 to 2023 and 2023 to 2024 salary schedules for noon duty supervisors and classified assigned flat hourly rates.
Thank you. Second. We have a motion and a second. That passes 500. I have a feeling you're going to be standing there for a while. Review
Just a little bit
potential
longer.
approval of the updated California School Employees Association, CSEA salary schedule for 2021, 2022.
And again, I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have on the salary schedule.
Madam President, I move to approve the updated California School Employee Association, CSEA salary schedule for 2021, 2022.
Second.
Thank you. That passes 500.
And thank you to CSEA. for your
Yeah.
Work on that.
Review and potential approval of the clerical, secretarial, and technical unit reclassification committee recommendations.
And this is the annual CST reclassification committee that meets every year. The committee's determination as a CST member, a district member, and a neutral member, and their determination this year was unanimous. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have about this reclassification.
I move that we approve the clerical, secretarial, and technical unit reclassification committee recommendation.
Second.
Thank you and thank you. The second was trustee Count if I spoke over her. Okay, that passes 500. Very good.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
leaving us now,
CST.
huh?
Tag team.
Review and potential approval of the revised job description for early childhood educator lead.
I'm here if you have any
Mr.
questions.
Shady. All right.
Entertain a motion if there's no questions.
I'll move that we approve the revised job description for early childhood educator lead.
Second.
Motion and a second. And that passes 500. This next one is info or action, review and potential approval of the classified job description for facilities technician.
Good evening. I'm just here to answer any questions should you have any.
If there's any questions? No, we can either approve it or wait.
I move that we approve the classified job description for facilities technician.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, that passes 500. Review of proposed legal and operational updates to independent service agreement, ISC template.
Yes, so Mr. Alvarado led this and he's available for any questions you may have about the new template.
Thank you. And this one is just info, is that correct? Okay. We have no questions, so we'll be going on to the next one. 1914, review and potential approval of the addendum to the LEA Medi-Cal Direct Billing Program Op Services Contract for recalculation of the CRCS reports for 2015 through 2016, 2016 through 2017, 2017 through 2018, and 2018 through 2019 school years.
And I am available for any questions on this. Obviously, Dr. Geely's not here, but I can answer any questions.
I wish I could think of a real detailed one to ask you.
Well, I'm presuming that the reason the recalculation is permitted is because they changed the rules backwards. Is that what?
That is somewhat correct. Yes.
Somewhat correct.
Somewhat. I'll leave myself
Okay.
some wiggle room there.
So and typically we anticipate that the revenue will exceed the expense to complete the work.
That would always be the plan. We want that to happen.
Right.
I'm not going to say that that always happens, but that would be the plan.
The way that I read it under item 4 payment was that it's that they actually receive a percentage of the funding we receive. So if we were to not receive any, I think they don't receive any, if I'm reading this correctly. So it says 4% of the total underpayment received by client, but not to exceed $80,000. Right?
If there's more
That's my
questions,
understanding.
we can always table it.
We need to get the work started. I move to approve the LEA Medi-Cal Billing Program Opta Services Contract Addendum CRCS recalculations.
Second.
And that passes 500. And that concludes our agenda for the evening. Oh, unless somebody has something really important.
Can I suggest a future agenda item?
Yes, always.
I really would love to learn more about the VAPA committee's work around music or arts education and equity in our districts.
I see Dr. Clark making a note over there. So with that, we are adjourned, ladies and gentlemen.